Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 8 TOEFL, Chapter 40. The Second Leaf. Hey there, readers, how are you all doing? Today is the beginning of another week-long update. At this rate, I'm thinking that there will be a week-long update for this story once every month, whether it be 5 chapters, or a special 7. But I have some other news. OC suggestions are down, and this time around, they're down for good. I've already done all the organizing. I know what I'll write until the early 100s, and adding an OC can ruin the flow I've made. So I'm sad to say I won't be accepting any more OCs until after the Spade Kingdom arc, which is many chapters ahead. To all those who have suggested OCs, I'd like to thank you. Now with that out of the way, enjoy the chapter. CYA. Yes, everyone exclaimed. I think it's safe to say he's dead this time, Kenos commented. Magna and Luck dropped down to the ground, sighing with relief. The flame mage tiredly spoke up. Good. Despite how hard we were fighting, I don't think Luck and I could have gone for much longer. We were running mostly on adrenaline, as well as the few seconds of healing we got from Kenos. Ghosh and the other two came down and walked to the others. That bastard went down faster than I was expecting. I take it you all did a number on him before we got here. The mirror mage asked. You better believe it, Asta said as he walked to them as well. Finral and Vanessa were doing the same. He then turned to the solar mage. Those final attacks we did were pretty cool. Kenos smirked. I know. I bet we looked mega badass, he said before turning to Ghosh and looking at him, or more specifically, the blue-haired girl that was hiding behind him. He pointed at her. Hey, Ghosh, who's that person behind you? Is she a temple mage you helped when the Eye of the Midnight Sun attacked? No, you silly boy, Charmy replied as she went over and pulled the girl into view. She was doing her very best to cover her face. This is Grey, in her true form. What? Everyone else exclaimed in total shock. You're a girl. We thought you were a boy, you even bathed with us. Magna exclaimed before he stopped and put both of his hands on the thing in between his legs. Oh god, that means you've seen everything. The other boys all stopped and widened their eyes in comedic shock before doing the same action as their shade-wielding squadmate, except for Asta as his arms were quite sore and seemingly broken. And no, I never saw any of them. Gray stuttered. Oh, and she's super shy, Charmy explained. Shy, Vanessa said as she smiled as rested her head in between her hands. But you're so cute. And no I'm not. So please stop looking at me, it's so embarrassing, the transformation mage said back. Kenos focused his attention on her without actually looking at her as to not make her feel uncomfortable. So, she's a girl, but she's also a black bull, which means she's like my family as well, but something tells me getting to know her will be extremely difficult with that shy personality of hers, he thought. Hey, since we beat Veto, shouldn't we be looking for Captain Yami and the perv priest? Noel suggested. You're right, he said that he and Gifso were trapped somewhere. So we just have to find where that place exactly is, Finral responded. Perfect. So far, this is the easiest thing we've ever had to do since we got here. Kenos laughed, the others laughed too, glad that the fight with Veto was finally over. But unbeknownst to all of them, the beast mage was still alive, but just barely, within the crater in which he laid. His fingers began to twitch although the rest of his body remained unmoving. I'll never forgive them, never, he weakly thought as a memory of his past came to him. Flashback. Years ago. This is so much fun. A boy exclaimed. He wore a white tunic, had tan skin, short, white curly hair, strangely pointy ears, and a large smile was on his face as he ran through a wide and open forest. Wait up, Veto, you're going too fast. The voice of another boy exclaimed from behind him. The young Veto stopped and turned around, looking at the other boy. He was just a bit taller than him. He had light skin, wore a similar tunic and had similarly pointed ears. His hair was white like Veto's, but it was tied in a small ponytail. Oops, my bad, sorry there Licht, Veto apologized as he stopped running, giving Licht time to catch up. The two then began walking together at a moderate pace. Licht looked at his enthusiastic friend, prompting a smile to form on his face. You seem really excited. Veto grinned. Of course, why wouldn't I be? I love taking a stroll through this forest, especially when the sun is about to set, everything just looks more beautiful. I suppose, but you shouldn't just run off without telling anyone, you'll worry Raya and Fana, Licht lightly scolded him. Veto raised a brow. You just mean Fana, right? Licht shook his head. No, I know Raya might not look like he's ever concerned about anything, but believe me when I say he cares just as much as we all do. Yeah, alright, Veto said with a puffed up cheek, but then it went back to normal as he looked at the ponytail boy. But you shouldn't have come after me, I can only imagine how sad Patry must feel right now. Patry, why would he be sad? Licht asked. Duh, because you're not around, he may be just a toddler, but he's super attached to you. Sometimes even more than he is to his own parents. He must see you as his big brother or something, Veto replied. Really? I've never had a little brother. If that's true, I mustn't keep him waiting. Do you think we've gone far enough to head back? Almost there. I usually head to the tallest tree in the forest, then we can. Veto was in the middle of replying before his foot hit something warm. He looked down to see what it was, but as he did his eyes widened. The tallest tree. I think I can see. That's the one, right, Veto? Licht asked, looking forward, but he heard no response. Veto. He repeated. He looked beside him to see the boy was no longer there. He turned around and saw him, a shadow covering his face as he bent down to gently pick something up. Is something the matter? Licht asked as he walked to Veto, looking at the thing in his hands, his eyes widened. In Veto's hands was a small bird, but it looked injured. Licht rested his hand over the animal for a short few seconds before bringing it back to his side. There's a faint trace of mana around it. Whatever hurt it, it was a spell, but who would do such a thing? Humans. That one word came from Veto's mouth, but only as a quiet mutter, inaudible to the boy beside him. It was those stupid humans. I know none of us would ever do something like this, but those filthy humans would. I'll find the ones who did this, and I'll kill them, he continued muttering. Licht was busy paying attention to the bird, but then he looked at his friend. He couldn't understand what he was saying. All the future light mage heard was muttering. Hey, Veto, are you all right? Snap out of it. Licht raised his voice. He placed his hand on his friend's shoulder, effectively snapping him out of whatever daze he put himself in. Something wrong? Veto asked with confusion. Licht shook his head. Not with me. Let's forget about the tree. We should bring this bird back to the village and nurse it to health. You're right. Let's go. The future beast mage agreed as the two turned around and started walking back. But in Veto's mind, he was still angry at the humans who made nature suffer. End flashback. Despair. I'll make you suffer, Veto whispered as the red aura around his eye began to engulf his whole body and he began to float. Damn Kenos, you and Asta were awesome, standing side by side, looking so cool, and you worked really well together too, Luck praised the two. Kenos smiled. Thanks, and I have to say, he was beginning to say before they all heard something terrifying. Despair. Every single one of them turned around, their eyes turning from joy and happiness to shock and fear in a matter of seconds as they watched Veto float out of the crater and into the air, the mysterious red ore then becoming a sphere with him within it. The solar mage grit his teeth. Oh come on, does this guy not know how to die? Tell me about it, but the real question is what the hell is he doing? Magna said before asking, pointing up at the beast mage. What am I doing? I'm so glad you asked. With the power of my third eye, I'll become a bomb, and when I explode, this whole damn place is going down too. I might have not been able to beat you, but that won't matter, because I'm taking all of you down with me. Take this entire place down. Noelle repeated. She turned around and looked at Kahono, lying unconscious. Like hell you are. She's right, we're not going to let you do that, Vanessa and Finral added. I'm up for one more fight, what about you, Magna? Luck asked with his signature grin. You better believe it, Magna replied with a grin as well. Don't think I'll stand aside either, Ghosh said. Me too, I'm going to pummel you into the ground, Charmy added. Why you can't do whatever you want, hear me, Gray stuttered, but stood beside Ghosh instead of behind him. Those who were sitting down got back up, and even though Asta's arms ached badly, he gathered his strength and raised the Demon Slayer's sword at his opponent. At the same time, Kenos took his grimoire out before closing his eyes, doing his best to gather surrounding mana for one last mana charge attack. His eyes then opened. We'll break through our limits again if we have to, because we'll stop you. The solar mage and the swordsman exclaimed together as everyone else stood ready to fight. I commend your attitude, but there's nothing you can do to beat me. It's over, you hear, all over, just give up. Veto screamed. But just then, as he finished his exclamation, a part of the wall next to the black bulls burst, leaving a rather large hole, but from behind the hole, a familiar voice spoke up. Can't beat you. Well, I suppose you're right, they can't, the voice began to say as they walked through the hole, appearing on the battlefield, causing every face of the group of magic knights to smile or grin, for that person was none other than the dark mage himself, his katana drawn, ready for battle. But I can. Captain Yami. Everyone exclaimed as they ran to their captain, but Yami put his hand up, causing them to stop as he walked over to them instead. Hey there everyone, how's it going? He asked quite casually as he blew smoke from his cigarette. Normally, they would have been annoyed by his calm tone in such a dire circumstance, but right now, they didn't care about that. You're here, that means you escaped. How exactly did you escape? Asta asked. Got a new spell. Really came in handy for getting me out, he explained before looking at the bomb in the sky that was Veto. And it seems I'll need it again to handle this mess, but before that, there's something I have to do. He then walked a little closer to his squad members, beginning with the magicless mage before shifting to another, resting his hand on each. Asta, Kenos, Noelle, Magna, Luck, Vanessa, Finral, Ghosh, Charmy, and, who exactly are you? Oh, I'm Gray, this is my true F form, and why yes, I'm a girl. Oh, really, Good to know, Yami finished as he grinned. I was able to see you all fight until the last parts. I know that I usually don't say this right to your faces. But I'm really proud of every single one of you. You all pushed past your limits and became stronger, and seeing you do that just made me push past my own. His katana then surged with dark magic. The others didn't say anything, only a smile formed on their faces as they all Clover saluted. Yami nodded to their action before focusing on Beto. And now, the only thing that's left to do is to take you down. Try all you want, Yami Sukahiro, but you'll fall too. The beast mage exclaimed back as the aura started to become stronger. Despair, 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 despair. The dark mage slowly raised his katana into the air with one hand, slowly gripping finger by finger with his other hand. Would you shut up? I've gotten sick of hearing you say that word over and over again. Despair this, despair that. Well, it all ends here, because my spell, he began. Quote. Cuts through dimensions. Dimensions. The others wondered quietly. Yami's grimoire came up to him, turning to the page of his new spell. Dark magic. Dark cloaked dimension slash. He exclaimed as he brought his katana down with tremendous force, his slash hitting the aura sphere right in the middle, cutting it and Beto cleanly in half. What? The others said, their mouths agape as the sheer power of the captain's spell. Veto's body fell down to the ground with a thud, the red aura disappearing. Yami blew smoke out of his cigarette one more time before he sheathed his blade. See ya around, Mr. Despair, he began before turning around, seeing the looks of awe on the faces of the other black bulls, he then gave a slight smirk. Quote. Thanks for toughening up my squad. Holy crap, that was awesome. They all exclaimed as they ran to him again. So cool, you went like this and then that, Keno said, childishly reenacting Yami's attack. Not to mention you made it look so easy too. Footsteps were then heard from the hole, they all turned to it to see Gifso coming out. He had a panicked look on his face, but once his eyes fell on his unconscious family, he ran to them. Gio, Kahono, Kiato. The game mage cried as he bent down and embraced his son and grandchildren, tears fell down his face. I'm so sorry, you got hurt, just to entertain this old man, especially you, my two grandchildren, you both had such great dreams and worked so hard to achieve them, but now it's over. Yami walked over to the crying old man. Sorry about them, old timer, but they meant a lot to two of my squad members, so if we ever find a way to help them, we'll tell you right away. Gifso got up and wiped his tears away. Thank you, all of you, I am in your debt, you saved our community. He then pulled back his beard, removing the magic stone from the necklace it was attached to. Here, this is what you came for, take it, you all deserve that much. Gee, thanks, Yami said as the stone was placed in his hand. Well, with the stone in our possession, Black Bulls, I'm happy to say that this mission is officially over. 5 hours passed as most of the Black Bulls were in some kind of infirmary, each lying down on an individual bed with a water cord of some sort attached to their arms in order to heal them and monitor their vitals. It's really over. 5 hours have passed, there's no way Veto would stay down for that long if he was still alive, Magna said. Great, I can't wait to go back up to the surface and see Marie, Ghosh then said. It's felt like I've been here for weeks. Ghosh, we haven't been down here for more than half a day, Charmy reminded him. The mirror mage groaned. Fine, I'll just call her, I just hope Marco isn't around her this time around, he said, whispering the last part. Luck sat up. I feel so refreshed, I just want to fight someone, any volunteers? No, I'm fine, Finral replied. And that reminds me, that combo you did with Vanessa and Rasta was really cool, your spatial magic is pretty awesome, it almost makes me want to respect the fact that you're my superior, Magna said to him. You should already be doing that anyway. The spatial mage exclaimed as he quickly sat up, earning a laugh from a few of the others. But he's right, you were really cool, Vanessa told him before turning to the transformation mage whose bed was next to hers. And Gray, since we know you're a girl now, you can join us for some of our outings. Gray covered herself with her bed cover. Me, go outside W with all those people looking at me, and no way. The thread mage sighed. Fine, you don't have to go on outings with us, but we will try to hang out with you more. The others looked at her, but then their gaze averted to the balcony at the end of their room when they heard a sound coming from that direction. What's going on out there? Ghosh wondered aloud. They all walked over to the balcony, but their eyes widened as they saw the people of the underwater community, cheering for the Magic Knight squad. Black Bulls, thank you so much. One person cheered. We saw all of your battles, you fought so hard to save us, we're forever in your debt. Another one exclaimed. They're cheering for us, Finral said with obvious confusion. Even Luck looked confused as he rested his chin on his pointer finger. That's strange, nobody's ever cheered like that for us, usually we just get booed at. I don't know, I could get used to this, Magna said as he crossed his arms above his head. Don't get cocky. Besides, not all of us are here, There are others who deserve praise too, Vanessa said to him as they all thought about the black bulls who weren't present with them. We're coming in. Two unified voices said as the door to a room opened. The voices belonged to Noelle and Kenos. Inside the room, sitting up on two beds right next to each other, were Kahono and Kyoto. The song mage waved, with her throat pierced by Veto. Speaking caused her great strain. Hey there, you two, thanks for visiting, but are you sure you shouldn't be resting? Kyoto greeted before asking. No, it's been a good few hours, we're just fine, it's you two we're concerned about, Noelle replied as she sat on a chair next to Kahono while Kenos took a seat next to Kyoto. We wanted to say we're sorry, Kenos suddenly said. We had a short talk, and we discovered that it was because we weren't strong enough that Veto crushed your dreams, he said, looking down at Kyoto's dismembered foot, which was heavily bandaged. The water mage nodded. Yeah, it's our fault, we were both there when you were fighting, but we couldn't do anything to help you. Don't say that. Kyoto was serious as he interrupted her, but that serious look quickly changed into a warm smile. We don't blame either of you, he said before he looked at Kenos. Sure, my dream is gone, but that's only for now, I know there will be a way, someday, I'll dance again. The solar mage widened his eyes, despite his smile, at the corner of the dance mage's eye, a tear fell, he then suddenly stood up, a tear coming down his own face. Thank you so much. You're thanking me. What for? Kyoto asked with confusion. What for? Are you kidding me? You helped me so much. Thanks to you, I turned a technique that I once thought I could never learn, and incorporated it into something unique, something that's all my own, Kenos replied. The others raised a brow since they weren't present to see Kenos use mana charge. Are you talking about ki? Kyoto asked. Yeah, but I don't use it the same way as Asta or my captain would, he replied again. The dance mage grinned as he brought his hand forward. Then you're welcome, I liked helping you too. Kenos wiped away his tears as he did the same thing, the two high-fiving. Don't worry, I'll do whatever I can to fix your foot, no matter what, I'll save your dream, it's the least I could do. Cool, then I'll be waiting, Kyoto said as the two grinned. Noelle and Kahono smiled at the two, the former looking at the latter, her smile fell a bit. Hey, Kahono, she was going to say before the song mage bumped heads with her, both of their eyes closed. You don't need to worry about apologizing, Noelle, it's just like what Kyoto said, I'll sing again, one day, Kahono mentally told her. But what's more important right now is you, that attack you used against Veto was incredible, you made such a powerful spell, I'm proud. But I wasn't able to save you in time, Noelle thought back in a slight tone of distress. What did I just say? I don't blame you, besides, he could regenerate, if anything, it's my fault for not reacting fast enough, Kahono mentally said. But you did your best, you've grown up so much in such a short amount of time, in fact, a really short amount of time, it hasn't even been 24 hours since we've met, but when we did meet, you had trouble controlling your magic and I felt some insecurities inside you, but now you're stronger, and you feel a lot more confident, good for you. The two girls separated their heads from each other, both were giving each other warm smiles, it was Kenos and Kyoto's turn to smile at them. I'm going to do the same as Kenos, I'll find a way to fix your throat, you'll get to sing again, that's a promise, Noelle stated. Thanks, both of you, I know Kahono has trouble speaking, but I think she'd agree with me when I say that the two of us are glad that we met you, Kyoto said as he brought his fist forward. Kahono smiled as brought her fist to his, the water and solar mages smirked before they reached over the bed to share a group fist bump with the two siblings. As two, they said. Noelle and Kenos then waved one more time as they left the room, walking down the hallway. Hey, Kenos. The black-haired mage looked at her. Yeah. I've been wondering, have you seen Asta? Rest in peace, ya damn bastard, Yami said as he gently brought his hands together in front of his face. Resting in front of the dark mage was Veto's body, covered in a large white tarp, at the beast mage's feet was a line of stones. Hey, Captain. Yami turned around to see Asta walking toward him, his jacket was off, leaving him only in his white tank top, both his arms were slung up in a brace. Hey there, kid, Yami said back as he returned his attention to the dead mage. What are you doing here? Asta asked. Giving him a quick funeral, it was something I used to do back in my homeland, the dark mage replied. Asta raised a brow. Even for enemies. Yup, even for them, at least, sometimes, only if they were a real threat and gave us a serious challenge, and I think we all know this bastard checks the bill, Yami replied before turning to the swordsman. So, what are you doing here? It wasn't easy with my broken arms, but I brought these, the magicless mage replied as he dug through his sling with his fingers, slowly pulling a few flowers, each one a different color. Wasn't going to give him flowers, but alright, Yami said as he walked over and took the flowers, walking back to the alignment of rocks and placing them there. You know something, Captain, Veto was always talking about despair, and inflicting it onto others, right? Asta asked. His captain nodded. That's right, if you ask me, he spouts that word one too many times, what's your point? Well, During the fight, I kept reading his ki in order to anticipate his attacks, but I was able to read something else. Yami raised a brow. Something else, and what might that be? He felt sad. During the whole fight, the only emotions I could read were rage and sadness, not sadness because he was hurting us, but over something else, the swordsman replied as he looked at Veto's body. He wanted everyone to fall into deep despair, but this whole time, the one in the deepest despair, was him. Yami looked at Asta before looking up. He walked to the swordsman and pulled his headband over his eyes. Well, look at you, reaching such a conclusion. I swear, you're starting to get just a little smarter. Ah, Captain Yami, where are you? I can't see a thing. Asta exclaimed, trying to find the dark mage. Thankfully, Yami came over and pulled it back up. Just playing a harmless joke. Now let's get back to the others. It's time we leave, he said as the two walked out of the area, but with Asta behind Yami, he wasn't able to see his captain's face tense up. I wonder what made Veto despair more than anyone else. Maybe it has something to do with the story Licht told back in the cave. And speaking of Licht, something seemed strange about him. His key felt faintly familiar to someone I know, he thought as they kept walking. Thank you again for your help. The Black Bulls all stood together as the entire underwater community stood across from them. The latter were cheering once again. Gifso walked up to them. Will you ever come to visit us again? I don't see why not. Just no more deadly games, Yami replied. The game mage chuckled. All right then, you're always welcome. Stop by any time, Wheel. The priest was interrupted as a faint song was heard. They all looked to see it was coming from Kahono. It sounded really strained. Kyoto looked at his sister and decided to join the vocally injured priestess. Soon the other members of the community began to join them. Incredible, Finral muttered as he opened a portal. All right everyone, let's head back to shore and get our stuff. One by one, the Black Bulls entered the portal. Soon it was just Kenos, Noel, and Finral. The noble and the royal waved to their sibling friends, who waved back. They all exchanged a happy smile before the two magic knights turned around and entered the portal, the spatial mage quickly joining them as his spell vanished. Their time at the underwater temple had come to an end. Chapter 41. The Man Who Utters Silent Words. Hey there, readers, here's day 2, enjoy. CYA. Turning back the clock, hours earlier, the sun was shining over the kingdom as the Black Bulls stood outside their base, ready to head to Raki. It's finally time. Are you ready, everyone? Yami asked as he turned around to look at his squad members. Yes, they replied. You all have your stuff. The Dark Mage. The others nodded. Each of them had a bag in which they carried their swimsuits as well as anything else they might need for the trip. And do you all have your brooms ready? I know some of you can't use one. He asked again. Yes, replied the ones who had brooms, signifying so by raising it into the air. I'm riding with Kenos, Asta called. I'm riding with Vanessa, Noel added. And I'm riding with Magna, Gray finished, ironically transforming into the Flame Mage. Charmy looked at them and playfully shook her head. You people and your brooms, her grimoire came up to her. Cotton magic. Cloud of wool. Yami looked at her as she jumped onto her spell of transport. Yeah, I know what you mean, I'd rather use my wheels, but apparently, he's only heard of Raki, not actually went there. He sent an intimidating glare in Finral's direction. The spatial mage gulped. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get moving, he croaked as they all mounted their brooms and soared into the sky. But from inside the base, watching them from a window as they all flew out of view, was Gordon, a creepy smile on his face as he waved. Beside him was a small table, and on it was a slip of paper with words on it. It read, "Good luck with the mission, my dear friends, come back safely, I'll be waiting right here." The silent mage then walked over to the couch and sat down, resting his hands on his lap. A few minutes passed before he sighed. From this point on, Gordon will speak and not write, but he'll be whispering, despite the words used to describe his dialogue. I wonder what I'm going to do here, all by myself. He asked himself. I wish I could go with the others, but the open sea makes me feel nauseous. He then stood up, but quickly sat back down. But then again, I don't hang out with my precious friends, I usually just watch them from afar, but now, I'm all alone. The Black Bull then felt something on his head. He looked up and saw the anti-bird pet of the squad, perched atop his hat. Gordon slightly smiled. Oh, hello Nero, I didn't know you decided to stay here, I guess I'm not by myself after all. Nero flew down and landed right on the arm of the couch, next to Gordon. The two merely looked forward for a few minutes. Gordon then turned his head to look at the bird. Nero looked right back at him with the former speaking up. So Nero, what do you want to do? The others won't be back until sometime later, we should find something to occupy ourselves with. Nero blinked a few times before turning his head again, looking forward once more. Gordon slightly sweat dropped. Oh, that's right, you're an anti-bird, you can't talk, but sometimes, I wish you could talk. I'd like to know what goes on in your head aside from whatever birds do. If I knew, perhaps we could become even closer friends than we are now. The silent mage then thought of something. Wait, I know what I could do, he said before unbuttoning his jacket and pulling it back, revealing a plethora of small and sort of creepy dolls, each one in the likeness of a black bull. Since they aren't here, I can use these to pretend like they are, he said, grabbing 2 dolls. One was in the likeness of Asta, the other of Kenos. He placed them both on a table. Good morning there, Kenos, how are you doing today? Doll Asta asked as Gordon moved him forward towards the doll in the image of the solar mage. I'm doing just fine, still trying to figure the mystery behind my grimoire, Doll Kenos replied as Gordon moved him up and down. Oh really? Why don't you ask our good friend Gordon for some help? I'm sure he would love to, the doll swordsman stated. What a great idea. After all, Gordon is really smart, Doll Kenos responded. Say, what are you going to do today? I'm going to go outside and train my muscles like I do every day, care to join me? Doll Asta asked as Gordon then took out a miniature version of the Demon Dweller's sword, putting it in the doll's hand. Of course, that sounds like fun, Doll Kenos replied. Gordon then took out a doll in the likeness of Yami and put it in between the first 2 dolls. What's all that ruckus? Doll Yami exclaimed as Gordon moved him forward. Asta, would it ever kill you to shut up? Sorry there, Captain Yami, Doll Asta said, turning to Doll Kenos. Let's get going, we're going to train so hard. You know it, I can't wait to. The doll solar mage was in the middle of responding before Nero flew over and landed right on the table. He looked at the doll of Asta and began to furiously peck at it. Wait, Nero, that's not the real Asta, it's just a doll, Gordon said, ending his role-playing as he pulled the 3 dolls away, putting them back behind his jacket and buttoning it up. If I let you peck at it, you'll ruin it, and I'll have to make a new one. The anti-bird then flew up, circling around the silent mage before landing right on his shoulder and looking right at him. Gordon looked right at him too, he then thought of something. Hey, now that I think about it, I have a doll for every member of the Black Bulls except myself, and except for you, you're our pet, which means you're a part of our squad too, so would you like me to make a doll that looks like you? Nero merely tilted his head and gave a single peck on Gordon's shoulder, the mage then brought his fist to his chest and clenched it tightly. I'll take that response of yours as a yes, now let's head to my room so I can get the materials I need. Gordon then made his way to the hallway and started walking down towards his room. Nero got off of his shoulder and flew beside him. It only took a short 7 minutes before they arrived at the door. I don't think you've ever seen my room, Nero. Usually you only go to Asta's room. Well, you're welcome here too. Now let's head inside, Gordon said as he opened the door and walked in. Nero flew in as well, but the eyes of the anti-bird did something it never had before. They widened. The first thing Nero noticed was how dark Gordon's room was, despite the fact that there was a window, but that window only seemed to shine a light on a desk, failing to illuminate the rest of the area. On the sides of the room were an assortment of gloomy artifacts, some included a hanging model of the human skeleton. Next to it was an eerie-looking table with strange markings etched all over its exterior, and there was a bundle of black scrolls standing on it. The anti-bird was beyond creeped out by what resided in the room of the squad's most mysterious member. I know that since you can't talk, you can't voice your opinion, but I'm going to go on a limb and say you're quite impressed with my room. It looks exactly the same from my room back home. When I joined the Magic Knights, I was able to go back home to collect the stuff from my old room and put them here, Gordon said. Nero wasn't able to hear his statement, but even if he could, he would never agree that this room would be impressive. The proper word to describe this room would be more along the lines of terrifying. The anti-bird then flew and landed on the only place with light, the desk. He looked around and noticed a black skull just lying there. Surrounded by a trio of tall ritualistic candles, Nero found himself creeped out again and turned in the other direction. This time seeing a book, he went over to it and started pecking at it. Gordon quickly noticed this and moved in, taking the book, a light albeit creepy smile on his face as he looked down at his feathered companion. Wow, you really like to peck at things, I had no idea. He then inspected the book to ensure that no part of the book's exterior was damaged and let out a quiet sigh of relief when he saw that it was fine. He looked again to see Nero looking up at him. Oh, do you want to know what this is? It's my diary. This is where I write about all of my precious friends and the things about them. I can write about you too if you want, although I'm not entirely sure of what you do besides basic bird things. Anyways, time to get that stuff for your doll. Just need to get my materials, Gordon continued as he knelt down. Looking at the drawers that were located on the legs of the desk, he pulled one open and took some stuff out from it. Let's see, cotton, needles, string, dark blue cloth, white cloth, and lastly, some. He listed off the materials he picked up from the drawer, but stopped midway once he realized something wasn't there. There's no red cloth here. It seems I ran out of it. Maybe there's some in another drawer. He opened the other ones, but couldn't find what he was looking for. Gordon then stood up. Perhaps there's some red cloth in one of my friend's rooms. He walked back to the door, Nero quickly flying up and perching on his hat, glad to finally leave the scary room. Let's try looking in Asta's room first, he decided. Once he arrived at the swordsman's door, he opened it. At first glance, the room looked quite plain. He then walked inside and started carefully looking around for some cloth, but found none. Okay, let's try Keno's room, he decided next. Once he entered the Solar Mage's room, he noticed it looked relatively similar to Asta's room, but with a closet. He searched the closet, finding identical copies of Keno's daily attire, with the exception of a few formal suits, but once more, he didn't find cloth. No luck there either, he sighed as he kept walking down the hallway, eventually stopping at another door. This looks like the door to Gosha's room. I bet he has cloth. Gordon opened the door, but was taken aback by what he saw. Whether it be portraits, photos, or porcelain dolls, almost every corner of the Mirror Mage's room appeared to have something that looked like Marie. Both Gordon and Nero were shocked, the former opening his mouth. I knew he had a sister complex, but something tells me he might need some therapy. Scratch that, a lot of therapy. As his friend, it's my job to make sure he's mentally sane. Now, to see if he has any cloth, he said as he started searching around, eventually stumbling upon a drawer. Opening, he found what he needed, sort of. Ghosh does have cloth. The problem is, Gordon began as he kept looking through the piles of cloth. Quote. They're all pink, the color of Marie's clothes. He got out of the room and searched the others, Yami's, Finral's, Magna's, Lux, and Gray's, each time coming up short. He then stood on another side of the hallway, looking up ahead. I've searched the rooms of all the boys, but I've had no luck. Now it's time to search the girls' rooms. The only problem is that the path to their rooms have been rigged with trap magic to keep boys from getting through, Gordon stated. But regardless, I must get through. My friend Nero needs a doll, and it's more likely for a girl to have cloth anyways. The silent mage then got down into a running position, his two hands in front of him, planted on the ground, his body ready to lunge forward. He then took off. Power of friendship. Give me speed, he said as he ran forward. The traps went off immediately, firing off a plethora of dangerous weapons. Some managed to cause tears in his clothing, but that didn't stop him. He kept running and eventually made it to the other side, with only his clothes suffering injuries. I made it. Nothing can beat the power of friendship. Now let's try looking in Vanessa's room first. She might have something, seeing that she does wear clothes around the same color as red, he stated as he walked into the Thread Mage's room. It didn't take him too long to see all the bottles of alcohol that had littered the room, with the few that were full on a desk, but many empty ones scattered across the floor. Holy crap. Look at all of this. She really needs to clean this place, Gordon muttered to himself even more quietly than he already spoke as he searched through her room, but ended up finding nothing. None in her room. What about Noelle's? He exited Vanessa's room and entered the royal's room that was next door. He quickly noticed that it looked quite extravagant. His feet were graced by a soft and fluffy fuchsia rug that lined the entire floor. Wow, it looks so fancy, but I shouldn't be surprised. She is royalty. After all, she must have cloth, he said as he looked carefully around, but like the other times, he found nothing. Why is this so hard? All I want to do is find some cloth, he said with a slight slump as he arrived at the door of the final room. All right. This is it, Charmy's room. Although I highly doubt her room has what I'm looking for, it's worth a try. Gordon opened the door and walked in, but his jaw dropped as he saw what was inside. Books, a whole entire collection of books. Incredible, this room looks so organized. He walked over and picked one of the books up. Upon looking at it, he realized it was a cookbook. In fact, all of the books were food-based. True to the Cotton Mage's nature, there were books with recipes and food facts. Now, to see where she might keep some cloth, he said as began looking around, but alas, he couldn't find any. He walked out of the room. How can this be? Not one of my friend's rooms has what I'm looking for. Maybe I should look somewhere else. He made his way to the edge of the safe part of the hallway before getting back down into his running position. Hold on, Nero, he said as he took off. Power of friendship. Give me speed once more. After evading the traps for a second time, Gordon and Nero found themselves going down yet another hallway. Gordon crossed his arms and closed his eyes as he started to think. Where should I look next? None of the rooms seem to have any. Those are best places to search. I wouldn't really find cloth anywhere else around the hideout. Perhaps I should check the. His thoughts were interrupted by a loud roar. The silent mage opened his eyes. He was welcomed to a room with purple lighting. He turned to his left and saw where the sudden roar came from. Oh, I'm in the beast room, Gordon realized as he looked at the three beasts behind their cages. They continued roaring and began to bang on the door of their metal prison. They don't look happy. Maybe they're hungry. Since the others have been getting ready for the mission as well as handling other stuff for the past 4 days, I don't think they've been fed, he deduced. The banging and roaring continued. Soon the three beasts were banging on the cage in unison, resorting to barging at it with their entire body, like a person trying to barge open a door. Their efforts were soon rewarded as the door of the cage burst open. They didn't even pay attention to Gordon, instead choosing to break open a hole in the wall, running outside. Shit, Gordon regularly exclaimed, startling Nero as it was the first time he had heard the Black Bull say something audible. Calming down, Gordon then went back to his muted speech. Okay. Don't panic. I need to focus on finding the beasts. They couldn't have gone far. Panicking will only cause the distance between them and the hideout to increase. Looking for some cloth can wait. He walked over to the newly made hole, looking at the vast forest. I wasn't able to join the others on the underwater temple mission, so I should treat this as a mission of my own, and if that's the case, then I can't fail, he said as he ran out too, hoping to find the trio of beasts. How is this possible? How far could they have gone from when I went after them? Gordon groaned. A decent amount of hours had passed since he and Nero went after the beasts, but he was still unable to find them. At this rate, they'll be too far ahead for me to find them, he said before turning to his feathered companion. Nero, I need your help. I need you to fly and locate the beasts from above. Once you spot them, point me in their direction, he instructed at a normal volume for the bird to hear. Nero looked at him, seemingly nodding before flying high into the sky. About 5 minutes passed before the anti-bird came back down. Perching on Gordon's shoulder, he quickly pointed his wing directly forward. Straight ahead. Thank you, Nero. We don't have a moment to lose, he said as he ran in that direction. Passing through tree after tree, he kept going at that pace for about 10 minutes before he had to stop and catch his breath. The sun is about to set soon. If I go at a fast enough speed, I should be able to find them and somehow bring them back into their cage before nightfall. But then there's the question of, he began to say, but stopped as he heard a soft growl behind him. He then turned around. And there they were. A few yards away, the three beasts were standing beside each other, looking at something. Gordon breathed a sigh of relief as he started walking towards them, but then he stopped. By getting closer, he was able to see what they were looking at. Another beast, Gordon said as he looked at the rogue magical beast. It was easy to discern from the trio as it had many feline qualities. It growled at the trio who growled right back. This is bad. I don't know what that rogue beast can do, and they all look like they're about to fight. This can get dangerous. One of them can even end up getting killed. I need to do something before it gets to that stage, he deduced as he took out his grimoire. The rogue beast roared loudly and charged at the trio. The pages of Gordon's grimoire flipped around before stopping on one. Poison curse magic. Off watch and docks, he stated as a flurry of badgers made from poison appeared. Gordon pointed at the rogue beast, the badgers running straight at it. The rogue beast stopped its charge midway at the sound of growling. It then noticed all the ravenous-looking badgers coming its way, causing it to turn around and run in the opposite direction as fast as it could. The badgers gave chase, but only for about a minute before disappearing. Unfortunately, the sudden arrival of the badgers didn't just manage to scare off the rogue beast, but the trio as well. One of them quickly backed up into a tree, their strength causing the tree to break off and fall towards them. Don't worry, it won't hit you. Poison magic. Violet Sherm, Gordon then said, raising his hands up as he shot liquid poison above the head of the beast, protecting it from the falling tree. The poison mage ran over to the beasts and slowly knelt down. It's going to be all right. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a black bull, he said before his lower peripheral vision spotted something. He looked down to see a slightly dirty red piece of cloth. Red cloth. It's exactly what I've been looking for. What a coincidence, he said as he picked it up and put it into his pocket. He then noticed something else not too far away either. 3 fishes, and large ones too. Fish. That must have been what they were about to fight over. I bet the rogue beast had the fish, and the hungry trio tried to take them from it. Now that I've found them, I can use these fishes to lure them back to the hideout, he decided as he picked up the 3 fishes and turned around, but then realized he had a problem. Which way is the hideout? He asked himself before turning to the bird once more. I'm going to need your help again, Nero. Locate the hideout. He wasted no time flying into the sky. Unlike the last time, only 2 minutes passed before the bird came back down. Gordon gave him his best interpretation of a grateful smile. Please lead the way, but before that, I need to find a way to make the beasts follow me. But the poison mage was in the middle of turning around to face the beasts, but he stopped muttering midway as he saw that the beasts were already looking right at him, or rather, the fishes in his hand, drool dripping down from their mouths uncontrollably. Never mind. You can go now, Gordon said. Nero started flying in the direction of the base, while Gordon was behind him, running for dear life as he too had someone behind, that someone being the trio of hungry beasts. 15 minutes passed and the hideout was finally in sight, but Gordon noticed something. That's odd. The hideout usually fixes itself after a few hours, so why is the hole the beasts made still there? He mentally wondered, but then he shrugged it off. The wall had to be broken for the beasts to enter anyway. Gordon and Nero entered through the opening, the former quickly throwing the fishes into the cage. Only a few seconds passed before the beasts came in and entered the cage. Gordon quickly moved in, shutting the door and reactivating the magic lock. He breathed a sigh of relief as the beasts gleefully helped themselves to the food, tearing it apart to the point where not even the bones remained. Those fishes should keep their stomachs somewhat satisfied until the others get back. Nero landed on his shoulder. Today has been quite the day for us, Nero. The bird didn't make any gesture to respond, but Gordon didn't mind. He then remembered what he had in his pocket. Now let's get started on that doll. An hour passed as the sun came down and the moon rose into the sky, signifying the arrival of the night. In the main area, Gordon was sitting down on the couch, his head down as he was working on something. And done, he said as he stretched. Picking it up, he showed it to Nero. So, what do you think, your own doll? The anti-bird looked at the doll that was made in its likeness. He tilted his head back and forth before flying and landing next to Gordon, but instead of pecking at him, he nuzzled his face. The poison mage smiled. You're welcome. I'm always happy to do something kind for my friends, and you're no exception, he said before he looked out of the window, hoping that the others would have a safe return. Chapter 42. Shauna's Illusion Part 1. Here's the chapter for Day 3. Readers, enjoy. CYA. While the Black Bulls were on their way to Raki, the lives of those in other Magic Knight squads still went on, one such squad being the Aquadeer. The sun shined brightly over their base as another day began. Is it morning already? Zuka muttered to herself as she pulled her bedsheets up, covering more of her body. I don't know, I don't really feel like waking up now, maybe in another hour. However, a knock was soon heard at her door. Hey, Zuka, it's Shauna, I was waiting for you so we could head to the showers together, but you haven't come out of your room yet, is everything alright? Yeah, everything's just fine, I'm just a bit tired, just go on without me, I'll be up in about an hour, Zuka tiredly said back. I think you already know that if you wake up an hour from now, you're going to miss breakfast, right? The illusion mage reminded her. Oh yeah, I was so focused on sleep, I forgot about breakfast, the sparkle mage muttered as she got herself out of bed, putting on her flip-flops and grabbing her towel. She opened her door and walked outside, letting out a yawn. Good morning. And a good morning to you. Now let's get moving. The hot water from the shower should jumpstart you, Shauna said as the two made their way to the shower room, and as usual, once they came back, they went into their rooms and changed into their daily attire. I've noticed you've been waking up tired lately, Shauna mentioned as the two girls walked down the hall. Zuka's face showed a little nervousness, but luckily, it wasn't seen by her red-haired friend. You have a point, but I don't know what's causing it, she replied as they entered the breakfast hall. The two grabbed their plates and filled them with the usual items. Hey, Zuka, Shauna, I saved you a seat over here. Oliver called. Shauna sat right next to him, while Zuka sat across from them. Good morning, Oliver, they greeted. Morning, Oliver said back as he took a bite of his flapjacks. So, were you two talking about something? It seemed like you were when you entered the hall. Yeah, I was talking about how Zuka has been waking up tired these past few days, Shauna replied as she popped a strawberry into her mouth. You have a point, I've noticed the same thing, I'm pretty sure it started around 4 days ago. Have you been having any bad nightmares or something? Perhaps that's what's causing your morning fatigue. The wood mage said before asking. Zuka shook her head. No nightmares. In fact, quite the opposite. I've been getting nothing but great dreams, she responded, involuntarily holding onto her necklace. And then there's something else I noticed lately, Shauna began. You've been wearing that necklace a lot. I even caught you trying to sneak it into the showers yesterday. Do you wear that all the time? Zuka lightly blushed before she turned her face away, securing a pile of eggs on her fork. No, I don't wear it when I go to sleep, she responded before putting the eggs in her mouth. The truth as to why she was waking up tired was because she had been spending her nights looking at her necklace, cheerfully giggling to herself as she recalled in her mind how Kenos gave it to her over and over again. I've never felt like this before. Whenever I look at the necklace, I'm reminded of that moment. I never knew liking someone could give such an exhilarating feeling, the sparkle mage thought. Oliver then laughed. What was with that reaction? He then calmed down a bit as he slightly smiled. You know, I wasn't really planning to be a part of this squad back then, but I don't mind being here now, especially with you two as my partners, and my friends, there's never a dull moment with you two around. His statement caught Zuka's attention. Not planning to join this squad. Then what squad were you planning to join? Oliver twiddled with his fingers. Well, at first, I was hoping that maybe I could be a part of. The Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn. You're not a bad mage, but I'm not sure if you're Golden Dawn material, Shauna said, trying to sound polite. No way you could join that squad, without me here, who would change your view on commoners, you'd be an arrogant brat like 90% of that squad, Zuka added. Isn't that guy a part of the squad? I bet if I joined their squad, he'd set me straight, Oliver said. Perhaps, but I'll be honest, when you get past the whole discrimination thing, you're actually pretty cool, I wouldn't want you anywhere but here, you're a part of our friendship trio, Zuka said. Thanks, Oliver answered as they all finished their breakfast. Great. Now I'm feeling wide awake, I wonder if we're going to have a mission today, Zuka stated as she stood up and stretched. Hey there you three, I see you've finished breakfast, a familiar voice said from behind Zuka. She turned to see the captain's trusty messenger, Fragile. Yeah, we have, does the captain want to see us? Oliver asked. He does, and right away too, she replied as she walked out of the breakfast hall. Well, that was incredibly good timing. I wonder what mission Rill has for us. Zuka wondered aloud as the three of them made their way to the picture mage's office. They arrived at the door and knocked, being welcomed in by their young captain. Hey there, you three. I always love it when you get here so quick from the moment when I ask for you. Fragile told us to come right away. Is it an important mission? Shauna asked. No. The faces of the three showed confusion. I already have other teams handling any missions of importance. For you three, I want you to do some patrolling around the capital. It'll be a first for you too. Zuka and Oliver, so Shauna, you're in charge, show them how it's down. Yes, sir. Shauna replied as Clover saluted. Great, that's all the news I have for you. Now I can get back to my attempt at a masterpiece. Rill cheered as he childishly ran over the bench beside his canvas. He'll never change, the three thought in unison. Shauna then spoke up. Let's not waste any more time, onto the capital. The three left the office and got their brooms. Heading outside, they mounted them and flew into the sky. No conversation was exchanged between them as they arrived at the capital. Ah, the capital, it's been a while since we were last here. Hopefully, the Eye of the Midnight Sun won't attack again, Oliver said. Shauna turned her head to him. Now that you mention it, I haven't heard too much about the Eye of the Midnight Sun ever since the attack. I guess matters regarding them are being kept top secret. You have a point, we haven't had a run-in with them since then either, Zuka said as an image of the Spark Mage, Annalise, came to her head. I wonder if I'll ever see her again. If I do, I'll totally kick her ass. So, Shauna, Rill put you in charge. Tell us, what exactly do we do during a patrol? Oliver asked. Well, it's quite simple. What you usually do is, the illusion mage was beginning to explain before a voice cut her off. Hey there. Zuka. Shauna, Oliver. A voice called. It was coming from straight ahead. The three Aquadeer Knights looked forward to see Klaus waving at them. Beside him was a girl they didn't recognize with light green hair tied in a ponytail. The two walked over to them. It's been quite some time since we last saw each other, Klaus said. He then motioned his hands to the girl beside him. This is Latois Becquerel, a squad mate of mine. She was supposed to be with us at the capital during the Eye of the Midnight Sun attack, but she was then assigned to a mission. Latois, these are the three people I told you about from the Aquadeer. Hello there. I'm Zuka Glatenia, she introduced herself. Oliver Yugdro, a pleasure to meet you, he added. And finally, there's me, Shauna Trixton, she finished. Latois respectfully bowed. It's nice to meet you three as well. I apologize for not being there to help. I bet it must have been tough. It was, but don't worry, it wasn't your fault, Shauna stated with a kind hand gesture. So, what are you two doing here? Well, we were on our way to a mission, but Latois said she wanted to stop by the capital, Klaus replied. I know an old friend who sells stuff around here. I just wanted to go and say hi, Latois finished. What are you doing here? We're doing morning patrol. It's the first time for our group, Zuka answered. That's wonderful. Morning patrol might not be as exciting as missions, but they're just as important. We should get moving. See you around, Klaus said as he and Latois started to walk away. Wait, Oliver suddenly said. The two Golden Dawn Knights turned to face him. I was just wondering if your captain was doing all right. Captain Vengeance. He's doing just fine, Latois replied. Is there something we should know about him? Klaus then asked. Oliver shook his head. Nothing at all. I was thinking that it must be a bit stressful, you know, being the captain of the kingdom's best squad. Klaus slightly smiled as he pushed up his glasses. True, but I assure you the captain is eating properly and getting enough sleep. Thank you for the concern. We best be off now. The Steel and Compass mages walked away for the second time, disappearing into the crowd. Zuka turned to her squadmate. What was that all about? Oh, nothing, I was just a bit curious, he replied before turning to Shauna. What were you saying about what to do on a patrol? Oh yes, on a patrol, you merely look around to make sure everything is peaceful. There are people around, don't be afraid to chat with them. It'll help establish comfortability between us and them. A humanizing aspect to the Magic Knights if you will. Another important thing is to, she started explaining, but was interrupted once again as she bumped into somebody. Why do I keep getting cut off? She thought frustratingly as she turned to the person she bumped into. Sorry about that. She was in the middle of apologizing, but stopped as her eyes widened. The illusion mage bumped into a woman, but she knew that woman, even though her back was facing her, she recognized her. And she was afraid. The woman started to turn around as she felt Shauna bump into her, but the Magic Knight reacted quicker, taking out her grimoire as it flipped through pages. Illusion magic. Disappearing act, she mentally declared as she became invisible. She quickly backed up and grabbed Zuka and Oliver's hand, the nature of her spell making them invisible too. What the? They wondered together, but didn't get to ask what was going on as they were pulled by Shauna's running. She hid them near a vacant stand as they became visible again. Shauna, what the hell was that for? Why did you pull us away like that? Zuka asked as she looked at her friend, but stopped once she noticed a look in the illusion mage's eyes that she had never seen before. Panic. Shauna. Zuka muttered. She saw Shauna peek from their hiding spot. The sparkle mage did the same. She tracked her gaze to see she was looking at two people, a grown man with medium-sized brown hair who was wearing a blue casual suit, and a grown woman with long red hair who was wearing a gray casual dress. Oliver did the same as his two female friends. His gaze fell on the two adults as well. Are they the reason you brought us here? Shauna merely nodded. Let's patrol somewhere else around the capital. This place looks safe enough, she instructed, but her voice was laced with a slight mix of fear and panic. Shauna, who are those people? Do you know them? Zuka asked with concern. Yeah, we want to know. This seems to be really bothering you, Oliver added. Shauna sighed as she turned to her squadmates. Yes, I know them, she began. Zuka and Oliver got close to hear the end of her response. Quote. My parents. About 3 hours passed before the trio returned to Aqua Deer HQ. They had shifted to patrolling another part of the capital like Shauna had said, with neither the wood nor sparkle mages asking her about the obvious elephant in the room, but when they got back to base, they couldn't hold it in any longer. Your parents. They both exclaimed as she nervously nodded. Zuka put her hand on her chin. Now that I think about it, you've never mentioned your parents to us before. I just thought it was something nobles didn't do. But onto the million YUL question we all have. Why did you hide when you bumped into them? Oliver asked. Well, that's because I ran away from home. You did what? The two exclaimed once again. Why would you run away from home? They didn't abuse you, did they? Zuka asked. No, at least, not in the traditional sense. It wasn't physical, mental, or emotional, Shauna replied. My parents were trying to get me married. Married. Yeah, the Trixton house may be a noble house, but it's a minor noble house. As my parents' only child, they wanted me to marry someone of a higher noble house, the illusion mage explained. I've heard of that. It's a way for noble families to increase their own status, Oliver stated. Shauna nodded. That's right. Ever since I was a kid, the only thing I could really remember was hours upon hours of my parents trying to groom me into a perfect lady, someone who was self-centered, and because of my non-offensive attribute, they barred me from fighting as well. I hated it. My life felt a lot like my attribute. Your attribute? You mean an illusion? Zuka asked. The red-haired girl nodded. Yes, my life didn't feel real. They were trying to turn me into a person I wasn't, all because they thought it would make me more desirable to a suitor, she said before looking at the sparkle mage. Hey, Zuka, do you remember that meadow I told you to take Keno's after you went to his house? Zuka nodded. She could never forget what happened there. Yeah, I do. I found that place when I was 13, it became my happy place to visit whenever I felt overwhelmed by my parents' grooming. The blue and magenta-haired teen then widened her eyes. Is that why you looked sad when you were telling me about it? She realized. Shauna nodded. It is, while I did feel happy there, it's also a reminder of how I used to live, she then looked up. I remember when I first came across it, it was one of the best days of my life. Flashback. Trixton household. 4 years ago. Wrong. Do it again. Inside the house were 3 people, a 13-year-old Shauna, and her 2 parents, her father right next to her while her mother stood a few feet away from them. You must stand properly. As well as that, you must address the lord and lady of the house properly, but we'll handle that later, her father said. Her mother then walked up to the 2 of them. It's now time to start your formal dance practice. But mother, I don't like to dance, is that really necessary? Shauna asked. Her mother extended her hand. Of course it's necessary, Shauna, my dear daughter. You must learn to dance. It will make you more suitable to the higher nobles, especially since they do throw extravagant balls every now and then, so it's good to learn. Do you understand me? Shauna could have sworn her voice darkened around the last part. She turned her head away from them. Why yes mother, I understand. Good, now let's begin. You'll practice with your father, her mother instructed as the 2 got into the proper position. Shauna wrapped her arms around her father's neck, while he wrapped his arms around Shauna's waist. Perfect. You've got the position down packed. Now do a few waltzes around the area, her mother said. The 2 started turning each other around, maintaining their hold of the other. The grown woman silently tapped her feet to ensure the tempo they were going at matched her own. She then clapped as they stopped their dance. Incredible. You did amazing, Shauna, and on your first attempt of the day as well, you're starting to improve. Thank you. Can I go outside to practice my magic now? Shauna then asked. Her father shook her head as they separated. Shauna, we talked about this. You use illusion magic. Why practice? It's not made for battle. But I can be a support mage then, she protested. A support mage might still need to join the battle if it becomes necessary, and that can become dangerous. Besides, when you're married, you won't need to worry about battles. Just leave that to the magic knights, her mother responded. But what if I want to be? The young girl began, but her mother put her hand up again. Please, no more of this. Your father and I have the perfect future planned out for you. Shauna put her head down. Yes, mother. If I can, may I take my broom and fly around outside for some fresh air? Of course, you did good with that dance. I suppose you do deserve a break. Be back in an hour for dinner, she replied. Thank you. I won't be long, Shauna said as she left their presence. She then made her way to her room, grabbing her broom before heading outside, mounting it as she flew into the sky. Why don't they ever listen to me? I don't want to do all of this. It's dumb. I won't even get to marry someone I genuinely love, she mumbled as looked down, seeing the multitude of people going about their daily lives. I wish that my life could have maybe been something like theirs. Those people are so lucky. The young illusion mage continued flying. She had gotten enough fresh air, but she obviously didn't want to return home any sooner than she had to. But then, something below her caught her eye. She looked down and saw something extraordinary. Flowers, she muttered. Seeing a plethora of colors, she decided to fly down in order to get a better look. Once she landed, she gasped. Before her was a beautiful meadow, filled with all sorts of flowers of different colors. This place, it's beautiful, and it's not just the flowers. The grass looks so green, and it feels nice on my legs. Shauna started to walk around the meadow, kneeling down and picking up all the flowers that fascinated her. She then ran down a tall hill, laughing as she did. This place is amazing. She excitedly jumped into the air before hitting the ground. She laid down on the grass. I don't ever want to leave this place, she giggled. For the first time in her life, she felt genuinely happy, but then she remembered her reality. She got up. I'm not sure if my hour is up yet, but with all the fun I was having, who knows how long I've been here. I guess it's time to go back to the prison called home, Shauna said to herself as she walked back to her broom, mounting it before she took off again. A frown was on the illusion mage's face, sad that she had to leave the one place that gave her joy, but then she smiled, knowing that she could return there the next day. End flashback. So that's how it happened, Zuka asked rhetorically. Shauna nodded. That's right. Later when I turned 16, I ran away from home and joined the Magic Knights. I've been here at the Aqua Deer for a year now. Damn, and I thought I had a weird family history, Oliver muttered. Well, at least you don't have to worry about them anymore, you're with us now. Hey, you're back, Fragile said. The three turned to her. Her eyes fell on the illusion mage. Shauna, Rill told me he wanted you to stop by his office. Oh, alright, I'll be right there, Shauna said. Rill just probably wants to know how the patrol went. She then started to make her way to the office. Oliver's right, I'll never have to worry about my parents ever again, she thought as she arrived at the door and knocked. Come in, she heard Rill say. Shauna then opened the door and started to head inside. Hey there Rill, the patrol went great. Zuka and Oliver did well, she began, but widened her eyes once she saw her captain wasn't the only person in the room. Standing at the right of his desk, was her mother and father. No. It's not possible, how did they find me? Shauna thought with panic. It took all of her willpower to not let her face match her thoughts. These are your parents, right Shauna? Seymour and Rosaline Trixton, Rill asked. They are, Shauna replied with a defeated tone as her parents ran over to her and embraced her. Shauna, my lovely daughter, you're okay. Rosaline exclaimed. Do you know how worried you made us when you ran away? Seymour scolded. Oh please, the only thing that worried you was that you didn't have a daughter to marry off, Shauna thought to herself as she rolled her eyes. That's not important now, Seymour, she's safe, his wife said. I bet you're wondering how we were able to find you. Well, when we first found out you ran away, we assumed you went far, so we spent months looking around the outskirts of the kingdom. It's only this week we decided to start looking around the capital. Just today we were there. I showed some merchants a photo of you, and they said they recognized you from patrols. They then told us what squad you were in, and here we are. Seymour then turned to the picture mage. Thank you very much for taking care of our daughter, Captain Rill. I hope it's not much to ask, but can you give us a few minutes of privacy? We'd like to talk to Shauna. Of course, take all the time you need, Rill replied as he left the room, leaving the three Trixtons alone. So, you've become a magic knight? Rosaline asked. That's right, I've been doing quite well here, Shauna replied. Well, I can't say we expected you to be a magic knight, but I suppose we're proud of you. If you've been here for the year you've been gone as Rill said, then you're no joke of a mage, Seymour said. The illusion mage suspiciously raised a brow. Thanks. But now for the reason we've come, Rosaline spoke up. There we go, I knew it was too good to be true that they would come looking for me from the goodness of their hearts, Shauna thought. During the year you were gone, your father and I were able to find a powerful noble house with a son your age, so we've arranged your marriage, isn't it exciting? Rosaline explained before asking. No, Shauna plainly replied. I don't want to get married right now, that's the whole reason I ran away from home. Besides, I've made friends here, and good ones, I don't want to leave this place. Shauna, you need to stop being selfish, Seymour said. Shauna's face grew serious. Don't give me that selfish crap. This is all about status. You don't care about me. You never cared about me. Ever since I was born, you just saw me as a bargaining chip to make yourselves better. That's not true. You're a trickster as well. You would benefit from it like us. Seymour yelled back. Rosaline got in between her husband and her daughter. Please, you two, stop yelling at each other. It won't solve anything. She then turned to Shauna and sighed. I didn't think I'd have to resort to this, but you've left me no choice. Shauna backed up a bit. What are you talking about? Her mother slowly walked over to her. You ran away from home, from your family, which means you have no right to say otherwise, but if you don't agree to go along with the wedding, I'll cut your ties with the aqua deer and take you home. Those good friends you talked about, I'll make sure you never see them ever again. Why you can't do that? Shauna stuttered. Rosaline's face grew serious. Try me. You won't succeed. However, if you do agree to go along with it, while you must leave the Magic Nights, I'll permit you to visit these friends of yours once or twice a month. So, what's your choice? Shauna didn't know what to do. She didn't want to give in, but at the same time, she feared the legitimacy of her mother's threat. She had never seen her use her magic before, so she wasn't sure what either she or Seymour was capable of. She knew her answer. Fine, my choice is 2. That's odd. Shauna's been in Rill's office for about 15 minutes now. Do you think something went wrong? Oliver asked. I don't know. Does it take long to give a report on a basic patrol? Zuka wondered aloud. Well, let's go check. We can see for ourselves, the wood mage suggested. Zuka nodded as they both started making their way to Rill's office, but stopped once they noticed that on the other side of the hallway was Shauna. Shauna. The two teens called as they ran to her, but as they got close enough to her, they saw a shadow over her face. Shauna, is something the matter? Zuka asked. When I went to Rill's office, the illusion mage began in a sad tone. Quote. I saw my parents there. They found me. The wood and sparkle mages widened their eyes, the former spoke. They did, so what now? Although they still couldn't see Shauna's eyes, they could see the tears streaming down her face. What now? She began again. Quote. Getting married. Chapter 43. Shauna's Illusion Part 2. Day 4 has come. Readers, we're almost done. Enjoy the resolution of the first part. CYA. Getting married. Zuka and Oliver said together as they looked at their squadmate and friend with a look of shock. Yeah, was the illusion mage's only response, but the tone of her voice was somber. But, I thought you didn't want to get married. Zuka recalled. Shauna slowly turned around, her back facing them. Well, things have changed, she replied as she started to walk away. I'm heading back home with my parents now. The wedding is tomorrow morning. The wood and sparkle mages looked in disbelief as their friend soon became out of view. As Shauna was speaking, however, they could have sworn she sounded like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. I think we both know that there's no way in hell she's doing this of her own free will. She sounded like she was about to cry. Oliver spoke up. Zuka nodded. I agree. We need to find Captain Rill. Perhaps he can tell us just what's going on. Maybe he could even get her out of this, she said. The two Aqua Deer Knights immediately started running towards Rill's office, but they noticed he wasn't there. They continued running, searching almost the entire base. It was when they started checking the outside of HQ did they find their captain, standing at the entrance. Captain Rill, they exclaimed. The picture mage turned around at the sound of his name. Zuka and Oliver immediately noticed that their captain's eccentric and childish smile was no longer present, replaced by a sad look. Oh, hello you two, what are you doing here? He asked, the tone of his voice matching the look on his face. Rill, it's Shauna. She said she's getting married, but we know she doesn't want to. We need to stop her, Zuka said. I'm sorry, but I can't, he stated. Her parents informed me of her engagement, and now they're on their way to their house. You can't. Why not? You're her captain, don't you have the power? Oliver asked desperately. My authority as her captain can't override the authority Shauna's parents have over her. My hands are tied, there's nothing I can legally do, Rill replied as he clenched his fists. I wish she could stay here too, she has such great potential and is one of my favorite knights. Zuka and Oliver clenched their fists as well and put their heads down. Their captain was right. There was nothing they could do to help the illusion mage. The three magic knights stood in a mournful silence, not uttering a single word. Instead, tears dropped down from their faces. And we're here. Rosaline cheered as the three tricksters arrived at the estate. Shauna looked up. Her eyes showed little emotion. They were slightly red from her previous tears, but they slightly widened as she noticed that she didn't recognize the estate in front of them. It looked like an entirely different building. This isn't home. Where are we? She asked with strong aloofness. We were initially planning to come here later in the day, but your mother and I decided that it would be nice to meet your fiancé as soon as possible, Seymour replied. Welcome to the Sakuraba household. Sakuraba, Shauna muttered. The name sounded familiar. She then remembered that they were a pretty wealthy noble family, although not as well-known or influential as the Rossius. Let's head inside. We don't want to keep them waiting. Rosaline hummed as they all got out of the carriage they were in and started walking to the estate. They were welcomed by a singular guard. Ah, the Trixtons have arrived. You're just in time. Please follow me, the guard said. He led to three through the household. Rosaline and Seymour noticed how extravagant the place looked from the outside. Grins came to their faces. Their daughter was a different story. However, it didn't matter what she was looking at. Her face remained emotionless. The guard directed them to a small room with two chairs set across from each other. Please wait here. The young lady will sit on the chair. Thank you very much, they said as the guard walked away. Shauna then went and sat down on the chair. Seymour and Rosaline stood on her left and right. Just about 2 minutes later, three figures entered the room. The Trixtons noted that they all had bright pink hair. Shauna stood up from her chair and curtsied. I assume you are Lord and Lady Sakuraba. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. I am Lady Shauna who hails from the House of Trixton, she greeted. Her two parents smiled, glad that their daughter still remembered how to greet other nobles like they had taught her to. The two adults respectfully bowed their heads. You are correct. It is our honor to meet you as well, Lord Sakuraba stated. The illusion mage stood up straight, but didn't miss the chance to view her future husband. She noted his features. He had short pink hair, a light complexion, and striking blue eyes with freckles adorning his face. He wore a fancy blue suit with a lime green tie. She watched as he sat down on the other chair, his parents standing next to him. She sat back down herself. Lady Sakuraba placed her hands on her son's shoulder. This is our only child, Joshua, and their Joshua is your fiancé, your future wife. My future wife, Joshua repeated as he looked at Shauna. He then turned his head away from her. Is something the matter? Shauna asked, her tone still lacking emotion. No, it's just, Joshua began, his gaze still fixated away from the illusion mage, but his cheeks bloomed a light red. Quote. You're really pretty. For the first time since she had arrived at the estate, Shauna's look of aloofness broke, her face expressing mild shock, but nothing that the adults could really notice. He's shy. I can't really say I was expecting that. As the heir to a powerful noble family, I expected him to be some spoiled brat that I'd have to tolerate. This is a major curveball, she thought. Why don't we give these two some time to talk alone while we work on sorting out the ceremony? Lady Sakuraba suggested. A wonderful idea, Seymour agreed as the four adults left, leaving the two teens alone. Shauna looked at Joshua. The boy still wasn't looking at her. She couldn't deny that she felt quite flattered by his compliment, especially when she seemed like a good enough person. Are you planning on staring at that wall all day? Shauna plainly joked. Joshua slightly jumped at her words and looked at her. I'm sorry this feels awkward, it's just that I get nervous around pretty girls, he explained. There's no need to be nervous, she responded as she allowed herself a small smile. To be honest, you're pretty cute yourself. Thanks, Joshua said as he looked down, a big albeit nervous smile appearing on his face as he took multiple glances of his fiancée, shifting from her to the ground. The young Sakuraba wanted to start a conversation, so he clenched his fists and brought his eyes up. They met with Shauna's, but they stayed there this time as he opened his mouth. So, I see you're a magic knight, he asked, his eyes quickly falling on Shauna's robe. It's true, I've been with the magic knights for a year. It can get dangerous, but it can also be fun, the illusion mage replied. Cool, I've always wanted to join the magic knights, to protect people and keep them happy, Joshua said, his voice growing in excitement before it went back down to normal. But my parents said I couldn't, at least, not until I get married and have a child to continue our lineage if I happen to die in battle. I see, but regardless, your desire is an admirable one, and if you ever get to join a squad, I recommend the Aquadeer. You'll have a good captain, and you'll make good friends, Shauna stated, but her voice fell around the last part. Joshua noticed the fall in her countenance. You know, we don't have to stay in this room. If you want, we could go to the outside part of the estate, he said as he stood up, hoping a change of scenery would cheer her up. He extended his hand to her, his face becoming red again. Since we'll be getting married, would it be fine if I hold your hand while we walk around? He asked nervously. Shauna looked up at him. Knowing the reasoning behind his action, she was genuinely glad he cared for her well-being. She took a hold of his hand. You may. The two then walked around the estate, Joshua trying his very best not to faint on the spot. Shauna glanced at him and giggled. So, what kind of attribute do you use? Joshua asked. Illusion magic, she replied. What? That sounds cool. I use water magic, but yours is definitely cooler, he said back. Don't say that. I bet you can do a lot of incredible things with your magic, Shauna told him. Thanks, nobody's ever told me that before, Joshua smiled. You know, I'm really enjoying this. I wasn't sure of it at first, but now, I can't wait to marry you tomorrow. Shauna looked away, her expression saddening. This has definitely gone past my expectations, Joshua. You're shy, kind, and considerate, I've really enjoyed the short time we spent together too, but, she began to think as she looked at Joshua, seeing his smiling face. Quote. I don't want to marry you. Hours passed and night fell across the Clover Kingdom. Entering Aqua Deer HQ, was Zuka and Oliver. Rill had sent them on a mission, and luckily for them, it was a simple mission, because they couldn't stop thinking about their friend. I still can't believe Shauna just left the squad. Missions don't feel the same without her around, Zuka said. Tell me about it. Rill will have to send us on a combat mission eventually, and as well as losing our friend, we lost our team's support mage, Oliver added. The Sparkle mage slumped as she walked. Oh yeah, I forgot about that, she was my favorite support mage. Zuka, she was our only support mage, but I get what you mean, the Wood mage stated as he too slumped. Damn it, I bet she's being married off to some cocky bastard noble who can't do jack shit for himself, but still thinks he's the best thing since magic items. He turned to face his squadmate, who was looking at him weirdly. He sighed. Sorry for the outburst, it's just that I don't know what to do right now. Hey, you wanna stop by Shauna's room with me? Zuka asked. I've never actually been in her room before despite it being right next door, but now, I just want to see it, it's all we have left of her. Yeah, he began to respond. Quote. That'd be a good idea right now. The two walked slowly, neither exchanging another word to each other. Some minutes passed and they arrived right in front of Shauna's door. They looked at it intently. Just today, you came out of this room, and waited for me so we could go to the showers together, like we do every day. Thank you for never going without me, Zuka said. I'm grateful that you were the first friend I ever made in this squad. I remember the early days of being in this squad, as well as our first mission together. I was being an overbearing idiot. I thought I could fight Annalise alone and that I wouldn't need your help. But regardless, you still were there to support me, and not once did you harshly yell at me despite what I said. I'm grateful to you too, Oliver added. Do you think Rill might put a new support mage onto our team? Zuka asked somberly. I don't think he will. Shauna's irreplaceable. Even if there is a new mage, it won't feel the same as if she was here, Oliver replied with the same tone of voice. The Sparkle mage moved closer to Shauna's door. She could feel tears about to fall down from her face as she passed her hand over the wooden entrance. It hasn't even been a day since you've been gone, and yet, we miss you so much, more than you can probably, she was starting to say, but then she felt something inconsistent. She wondered aloud as she looked at the door. It appeared normal, but something felt wrong. She dragged her finger along the door, feeling the cold and somewhat smooth wood, but then, she felt something different, like some sort of paper. Something wrong? Oliver asked, noticing his friend's confused look. I think I found something, Zuka replied as she pulled on the papery feeling, and then, a small white sheet of paper that was held up by a tack became visible. The Sparkle mage ripped the paper off the door. It was sort of invisible. Just like Shauna was this morning, she must have concealed the paper with her magic. Oliver walked over to her. Does the paper have anything on it? Yeah, it's a letter, Zuka replied as the wood mage walked up to her. They both looked at the paper, reading its contents. Dear Zuka and Oliver, if you found this note, then I would have already left with my parents. I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. My mother threatened me saying if I didn't agree with the engagement, my ties to the Aqua Deer would be cut, and I'd never get to see either of you again. That was a punishment I couldn't bear to endure, so I've agreed to this. I chose not to tell you because I knew you might barge in somewhere and demand my freedom, which would be touching, but ultimately lead to more harm than good. At least I could visit you once or twice a month. That's better than never getting to see your faces, so goodbye for now. Signed Shauna Trixton. P.S. My days of being a magic knight were made better because of you two. No matter what we went through, thanks for letting me be a part of your friendship trio. Zuka dropped the note once she and Oliver finished reading it. The latter walked over to a wall, and furiously punched it. It's all because of them. Why? This is ridiculous. I say we, he was yelling, but stopped as he turned to his squadmate. Tears were flowing down her face. I know all parents don't love their children, but why? Why did they have to take her away from us? She cried. Oliver walked over to her, wrapping his hand around her head as he pulled it into his shoulder. It's going to be all right. Okay, he said, trying his best to sound strong. Look, it's clear we're too emotionally distraught. Why don't we get some sleep? We'll be able to think clearer. Zuka gently pulled herself out of Oliver's grip. She wiped her face with her hand and lightly smiled. Yeah, you're right, thanks for that. No problem. Good night, I'll see you in the morning, Oliver replied as he began walking to his room while Zuka entered her own. They would have a lot to think about that night. The hours seemed to move slower for the two Aqua Deer Knights, but eventually, morning came. Zuka got out of bed and scratched her head. She grabbed her towel and walked out of the door, but she turned to her side, frowning as she knew no one would come out of that door and greet her. With a sad sigh, she made her way to the showers, alone. She returned to her room a few minutes later and put on her clothes before exiting and heading to the breakfast hall. However, she didn't get any food this time. with what happened the day before, she was hardly in an eating mood. Over here, she heard Oliver say, he had no plate with him either, meaning he was feeling the same as the Sparkle Mage. She sat down before the two sighed simultaneously. Zuka spoke up. Shauna's wedding is today, she openly stated. I know, Oliver said. I don't know what she was talking about when she said we'd barge in and demand her freedom. I wouldn't do that, maybe. Face it, she had a point. If we knew that before they got far away from the base, no doubt we would have gone in spells blazing ready to get her out of it, Zuka said. Damn it, I hate it when you're right, Oliver muttered. But regardless, the girl then began. Quote. Part of me wishes that she told us anyway. You saw how she was yesterday. She looked like she was about to cry. I wish she would lean on us. We're her friends. It hurts to know that she's hurting. That tone sounded oddly experienced. Has that happened to you before? The wood mage asked with a raised brow. I'd rather not say, she said, brushing it off. There has to be something we can do to help her. She asked openly, but then, something came to her head. Hey, I have an idea. Oliver looked intrigued as he moved closer. Lay it on me. Zuka's sad and exasperated face turned into a grin. The wedding is most likely starting in a few hours. I say we crash it like a couple of badasses, you in? Oliver grinned too. I like that idea a lot, but how are we supposed to do that when we don't know where the wedding is taking place, or where that exact building happens to be? Don't worry about that part. I know a way to find out, Zuka replied as she got up and quickly walked out of the breakfast hall, grabbing a pastry on her way. Oliver got up and did the same as he followed her down the hallway. The days finally come. Around the same time in the morning, in a room on the second floor of the Trixton household, was Shauna. Those were the words she thought as she stood in front of a mirror while a trio of maids from the Sakuraba estate helped her into her wedding dress. And, done, one maid said as she applied the finishing touches to the dress. She and the other maids then backed up. Shauna looked at her reflection, noting the features of her attire. It was a traditional wedding dress, a white gown that wasn't revealing, yet accentuated the curves of her upper body, a flowing white veil at the back of her head, a very large and puffy bottom which kept her legs safely concealed, and blue streaks across the entire dress to complement her red hair. The maid covered their mouths in joyous shock. One spoke up. Lady Shauna, you look absolutely beautiful. I can't wait for young Lord Joshua to see you. After and your parents left our estate, he wouldn't stop talking about how excited he was for the wedding, another added. He's always been so shy, but he's also such a great boy. He deserves to have such a lovely bride, the third one finished. Shauna gave a small smile. Thank you very much, she said before turning her head away from them. Her smile fell as her eyes fell upon her squad robe, neatly folded on top of her daily attire. We mustn't waste any time. The ceremony will begin in 15 minutes. We must help Lady Shauna down the stairs so she can make her way to the wedding chamber, the first maid said as the three of them and Shauna exited the room. They then reached the staircase, the maids holding up the large and puffy skirt as Shauna carefully went down the flight of steps. Once she reached the bottom, she walked a short distance before she was right at the gates of the wedding chamber. The doors won't open until noon. Do you want your veil up, or is it fine down? The second maid asked. It's fine how it is. Everyone already knows who's getting married, so there's no point in that, the illusion mage replied nonchalantly as she stood in front of the gates, waiting until the dreaded moment when they would have to open. While this was going on, outside the estate, was Zuka and Oliver. The two magic knights were hiding in a bush as they saw people come to the front of the household that was guarded by guards. One by one, the people started to enter. How do you know the wedding would take place here? Oliver asked. It would make sense that the wedding would take place either at the Trixton household, or whatever household the groom is from, but since Shauna's parents were behind the engagement, I figured it would be at their estate, and it seems I was right, Zuka replied confidently. And we already know how we were able to get there, Oliver said, remembering that after leaving the breakfast hall, he followed Zuka to Rill's office, and the Sparkle Mage asked where the Trixton household was located. While it wasn't common in every squad, Rill had made it his business to know where each of his squad members lived, whether he wrote it down, or remembered it by heart, just in case an emergency presented itself and he would need to know. Now that we've found the place, how are we going to get in? The Sparkle Mage asked. It's easy, all the people who are coming here are obviously guests for the wedding, so we just have to pretend we're guests too, Oliver replied as the two teens quickly left their hiding spot, going behind a guest as he walked toward the entrance of the estate. All right, you can enter, the guard said, letting the man into the building, but once Zuka and Oliver walked up, he extended his hand. Stop, I'll need to see your invitations, he gently demanded. Invitations. They repeated together. Zuka spoke up. We don't have any. Then I can not let you in, the guard responded. Oliver stepped up. Come on, sir. We're friends of the bride, and check out the robes. We're magic knights, would we lie to you? I can't know that for sure. Magic knights may wear similar clothing, but they're all different people. For all I know, this could be a lie just to get in and do something mischievous, the guard replied. If you don't have an invitation, then I must kindly ask you to leave the estate. Sorry, mister, but we can do that. Our friend is in there. We're coming through, whether you like it or not, Zuka said seriously. Is that so? He asked as he clapped his hands once. Only a few seconds passed before more guards came up and stood beside him, their numbers now 10 to 2. If you won't leave here of your own volition, we'll just have to remove you from the premises by force, he stated as he and the other guards took out their grimoires. So that's how it's going to be, aye. Fine then. You ready, Zuka? Oliver asked. Of course, Shauna's in there, and we're this close, there's no way in hell I'm going to let some damn guards stop me, she replied. The two teens then took out their grimoires, letting them flip through pages. Sparkle creation magic. Wood creation magic. Let's do this. The gates to the chamber then opened. Shauna saw the medium-sized room before her, filled with blue and white decorations. Within the chamber were many seats, each one filled by a body, but she didn't recognize anyone but her parents and Lord and Lady Sakuraba, who were seated in the front row. I guess these are Joshua's relatives. He has a lot. It's either that or friends of the family, she thought. And speaking of Joshua, at the far end of the room, on top of the altar, he was standing there. He wore a blue and white tuxedo. His cheeks were blooming a light red due to his natural timidity. Beside him was the ordained priest. Shauna then stepped forward, her peripheral vision immediately noticing the two guards to her sides who opened the gates. One of them walked over to her and handed her a bouquet of flowers, each one a different color. She nodded her thanks before he returned to his post and with the help of the other guard, closed the gates. With the bouquet in hand, the illusion started to walk down the aisle. The guests all started to stand up once the bride passed their row. She kept walking and they kept rising until she walked up to the altar, and stood across from Joshua, the priest now between them. The priest extended his hands up into the air. Everyone, please be seated, he commanded as they obeyed and sat back down. He coughed to clear his throat as he continued speaking. Thank you for gathering here today on this beautiful afternoon to witness the union of Lady Shauna of House Trixton, and Sir Joshua of House Sakuraba. Truly a lovely day indeed. The congregation silently nodded as he continued. Before the young couple read their vows and are bound in holy matrimony, is there anyone in the audience who believes these two should not get married? Because if there is, speak now or forever hold your peace. Not a person in the congregation said a word. Rosaline and Seymour grinned at each other. There was nothing to get in their way now. Or so they thought. Okay then. If no one is opposed, then we can. The priest began, but was interrupted as the gates of the chamber were suddenly kicked open. A cloud of dust came with it. Just wait there a moment, a voice began. We have an opinion on this, a second voice finished. Although they couldn't be seen, Shauna recognized the voices of the two mysterious figure, her eyes widening. As the dust cloud settled, they came into view, and had proven her mental assumption correct. Standing side by side was the Sparkle Mage with her lance in hand, and the Wood Mage with his hammer in hand. Dust was all over their bodies. The two of us are opposed to this bullshit wedding. The people were incredibly surprised. Whispers erupted among them. Magic Knights. Look at their robes, they're part of the Aqua Deer. What do you think they can be doing here? Zuka. Oliver, Shauna muttered. Shauna. The two teens exclaimed. Rosaline arose from her seat. She looked at the two wedding crashers. They're from the same squad as Shauna. They must be those friends she was talking about, she thought. Where are the guards? Apprehend these intruders. Yeah, we sort of handled all of them outside. Well, almost all of them, Oliver explained as he turned to the two guards posted at the gate. Wood binding magic. Constraining thickets. He exclaimed as thick branches of wood appeared, restraining the guards where they stood. Zuka walked through the aisle. Nobody either brave or stupid enough to get in her way as she stood at the foot of the altar. She looked up to see her friend. Hello, Shauna. Excuse me, who are you? Joshua politely asked. She's a good friend of mine, Shauna replied. Oliver then ran over to them before he pointed at Joshua. You're the groom, right? We're not letting Shauna marry you, you damn good for nothing. Gee, good for nothing. Joshua repeated shyly. Shauna stood in front of her future husband. You're wrong, Oliver, this may be a forced engagement, but Joshua's a really nice person. Oh, really? Never mind then. Forget what I said, the Wood Mage casually apologized. Zuka spoke up. Shauna, we're not going to let you go through with this, you don't have to get married. You're wrong, Zuka, Shauna said as she frowned. I don't have a choice. Yes you do, we found the note last night, we know about what your mom said, but regardless, you shouldn't let your life be dictated, Zuka said back. Seymour walked up. Don't fill Shauna's head with your crap, she has to do this, for the sake of the Trixton house. Zuka sucked her teeth. What? I don't get you nobles sometimes, you're her father, and yet her own happiness doesn't come first in the subject of marriage, you don't deserve a child. It was Oliver's turn to talk. I'm a noble and even I don't get this, he turned to the red-haired girl, his eyes slightly indifferent. Shauna, forget about your family for a while, do what you want to. You said that before you joined the squad, You felt like your life wasn't real, so live your life so it does feel real, don't worry about your parents. To make it feel real. Shauna repeated as she clenched her fists and turned to the pink-haired noble. Joshua, I'm sorry, but I can't go through with this. Joshua's eyes widened. Why you can't? She slowly nodded. I was forced to do this against my will. Now I need to do what I can to make my life feel real, and as well as that, you're a really sweet guy, you deserve to marry a girl who genuinely loves you, and that's just not me, I hope you can understand. To her surprise, Joshua smiled. Of course I understand, I can't let you marry me if you don't feel that way about me, even if I do about you. Oliver moved his head towards Zuka. Holy crap, this guy is awesome, I wouldn't even mind if Shauna wanted to marry him at this point. Thank you, Shauna said as she walked over to Joshua and gave him a peck on the cheek. His cheeks turned red as the illusion mage smiled and stepped off of the altar. I'll see you around sometime. During that entire exchange, the priest and the congregation just watched, doing nothing else, but as the bride stepped off the altar, her mother stood up and walked to her husband. You can't do this, don't forget what I told you, don't try me. Rosaline screamed. Oliver turned to the annoying woman. Oh really, I wonder what would happen if Shauna just suddenly became the only Trixton. Right now, I don't think anyone would really mind. I know I won't, he said smugly as he slung his hammer on his shoulder, successfully shutting up the noble. The three friends then began walking to the gates. Rosaline shakily extended her hand. Wait, Shauna, my daughter, why you can't do this why you can't, her voice now sounded desperate. Shauna turned her head around and spoke, her voice serious and cold. Yes, I can, my life isn't going to feel like an illusion anymore, she said as they walked out of the chamber, then exited the building, Shauna in between the other two. Hey Oliver, you weren't actually going to kill them, were you? Zuka asked. Of course not, it was just a threat, gave that bitch of a mother a taste of her own medicine, he replied before looking at Shauna, scanning her up and down. That reminds me, you're really rocking that wedding dress. Why thank you, I don't mind wearing this to my actual wedding, it goes great with my hair, she said with a smirk. It's great to have you back, you wouldn't believe how messed up we were last night, Zuka was actually crying, Oliver said with a joking tone. Don't act like you didn't cry when you got to your room, the Sparkle Mage said back. Oliver's face turned slightly red with embarrassment. I don't know what you're talking about, sure I was mad, but I wasn't crying. Zuka gave a smug smirk. You don't need to feel bad, she was in the middle of teasing the wood mage when she was cut off as Shauna pulled both her and Oliver into a tight hug. I'm so sorry, you too, I'll never do anything to make either of you cry again, thank you so much for coming here, you're the best friends I could have ever asked for. She cried happily. Zuka and Oliver both gave a warm smile before Shauna let go of them, the former spoke up. Oh yeah, we have something for you, she reached into her satchel and pulled out Shauna's robe and daily attire. After we got inside the building, it took us a few tries to find the wedding chamber, and by mistake, I stumbled upon these. And this too, Oliver added as he pulled out her satchel and grimoire. Shauna took the latter object from Oliver and strapped it around her waist. Thanks. No problem, our brooms should be around here, I can't wait to tell Rill the good news, Oliver said as they went to the hiding spot and pulled out the two brooms. Shauna mounted behind Zuka, she smiled. Let's head back to base, then let's do something, together, she said as they flew into the sky. Chapter 44. The White Tiger. Hey there, readers, sorry this one's a day late, my internet was down on Friday, we just got it back up this morning, and then I still had to finish typing the chapter, so sorry once again about that. As well as that, I have an announcement, since this is the month of the story's 6-month anniversary, I released a poll centered around all the story's OCs that have been seen so far, this is why I usually ask for OCs from you all, even though suggestions are down right now, there are still more OCs that have yet to debut in the story, I'll be posted another poll in September for the 1-year anniversary with them on it. Now, with that out of the way, enjoy Day 5's chapter. CYA. Ah, what a beautiful morning, a voice said cheerfully. While the Black Bulls were at Raki and the Aqua Deer trio were handling their own problem, life went on for one other squad, the Crimson Lion Kings. The sun rose over their beautiful base as a ray of light peered into someone's room, that room belonging to Oksana Rossiu. The Phantom Mage blinked a few times and got out of her bed, she stretched and yawned as she walked to her window, peering outside. It really is a beautiful morning, I wonder what Dante or Kenos could be doing right now, perhaps something cool, or something dangerous. Oh well, whatever they're doing, I know they'll be fine, I'm going to take a shower, she said as she grabbed her towel and walked to the shower room. 10 minutes passed before she came back, her towel covering her entire body. Ah, nothing beats a hot shower in the morning after a good night's sleep, she mused as she got dressed, she walked up to her mirror and began brushing her long brown hair. Nice, but just one thing's missing, she said aloud as she went over to a small desk and opened a drawer, pulling out her wyvern pendant and putting it on, she then walked back to the mirror. Perfect, now I look good. The Phantom Mage then grabbed her satchel, putting it on. She took her grimoire from the desk and exited her room. Walking down a hallway, she stayed relatively silent during the walk, merely bobbing her head left and right, but as she made a turn into another hallway, she grinned widely. Not too far in front of her, walking forwards, was a girl. She wasn't too tall, just 5 feet 1 inch. She had long, peach hair tied in twin tails. She wore a white button shirt with a red string bow tie and a black skirt. Over it was the squad robe, and by the right side of her waist was her satchel, with her grimoire inside. Erica, Oksana exclaimed. The girl called Erica turned around at the sound of her name, revealing her crimson red eyes. She grinned as well upon seeing the female Rossiu. Oksana. Good morning. Oksana continued to exclaim as she ran and gave the girl a big hug. Erica Molotov was the first friend she made when she joined the squad. Despite Erica being 15, which made her 3 years younger than the Phantom Mage, Oksana had made other friends during her time with the squad, but Erica was her best friend, her BFF. You're as cheerful as ever, Erica commented as they broke from the hug and continued walking down the hallway side by side. Of course I am, I'm with my BFF, she replied as she hugged her while they were still walking. Ah, thanks, Erica said back before they both heard the sound of a door opening a few feet in front of them. Coming out of his room was the young Vermilion, Leopold. Leo. The two girls exclaimed with a tone of worry as they ran to the Flame Mage. He saw them coming towards him and grinned. Oh, hey there, Oksana, Erica, good morning, you two look like you're in a hurry. They stopped once they reached him. Oksana spoke up. Leo, you're out of bed, are you sure you should be getting up? Erica nodded. Yeah, Oksana told me about the injuries you sustained from the attack on the capital a little while back, she added. Don't worry about me, it's almost the 3rd week since the attack happened, I'm perfectly fine now, back to tip-top shape, Leo replied with a smile before that smile suddenly fell. Although, I wish I could say the same thing about my brother. The faces of the other 2 Crimson Lion Kings saddened as well. The 3 of them walked a little further, arriving at the door to a room. Leo opened it, and inside was Fugolian, laying down in bed, the captain's body in a state of comatose, his eyes closed, his expression indifferent, and most notably, his right arm missing. He's been like this ever since that day. Recovery mages have done all they can for him. They said he isn't going to die, but they didn't know when he'd wake up, the Flame Mage explained before his face showed anger. And it's all because of that licked guy from the Eye of the Midnight Sun. I swear I'm going to make him pay with my own 2 hands. Same here, but you can get your hits in after I do, Oksana added, her face becoming the same as her royal squadmate. Erica looked at the two. I don't know why, but I'm not as angry as the 2 of you are. Don't get me wrong, this licked guy has pissed me off too, but you two seem to be angrier than that. Don't worry about that, Erica, I bet that's only because you weren't there, but Leo and I were. We had a chance to save him, but we weren't strong enough, Oksana said to her. You're wrong, it was just me who wasn't strong enough. You were teleported outside of the capital, and I was fighting right next to him. There's nothing you could have done, and it's not your fault. I'm the one who should have been better, Leo responded. You guys, don't be too hard on yourselves. If the captain was awake, do you really think he'd blame either of you for what happened? Erica said before asking. The Flame and Phantom Mages looked at each other before looking at Erica. The latter sighed and spoke up. You're right, Captain Fugolian wouldn't blame us, so we shouldn't blame ourselves. All we can really do is get stronger and hope he wakes up soon. Leo nodded. I agree, my brother's tough. He'll walk up one of these days. He let his facial expression soften before letting it grin. So, what do you say we all head over to the mess hall and get breakfast? Of course, that is where we go every morning, Oksana replied as the 3 left Fugolian's room and started walking down the hallway again, soon making it to the mess hall. It was full of other squadmates. The trio got their food and made their way to a vacant table. Erica and Leo sat next to each other with Oksana sitting across from them. It's a good thing we got here in time to snag this table. I don't have anything against our other squadmates, but I like eating with just my friends around, Erica stated. I can understand that feeling, but don't forget, we are currently missing someone from our friend group. I wonder if he's sitting at another table. Maybe we should, Leo was replying before the sound of a voice cut him off. Good morning all. Sorry I'm a bit late. I was doing a little reading in my room, the voice said. The others turned to them. It was a young man. He had short white hair and a light complexion. His eyes were a silvery blue. He wasn't too tall, just a few inches taller than Erica, but it was easy to see from his physical build that he was a fighter. He wore a white-collared shirt with a sleeveless blue vest, revealing his well-toned arms. He had on white baggy pants and light blue boots. Over it was his squad robe, its crimson-red color greatly matching with his white and blue choice of attire. Everyone smiled. Erica spoke up. Good morning to you too, Rama, she said. Don't worry about being late, we just got here a few seconds before you showed up. The boy called Rama simply nodded as he took a seat next to Oksana. The Phantom Mage looked at him, giving him a cheeky smile. Late because you were reading. That's so like you, Tiger Cub. Rama looked at her. He sighed. Oksana, how many times have I told you that I don't prefer being called by that nickname? I don't really have anything personal against it, but it sounds kind of condescending that you'd compare me with a young animal. I'd rather you address me by my name or my proper alternate title, he said. Proper alternate title? You mean the White Tiger? Yes, I've heard that it's something people call you because of your skills, but I like calling you Tiger Cub instead, Oksana challenged with a playful tone as she got closer to her white-haired squadmate. It's not to be condescending, it's just the fact that you're so cute, just like a tiger cub. Rama gave her a mildly surprised look before it turned into a small smile. Well, if that's the reasoning behind it, then I guess I wouldn't mind, so long as you remember not to forget my actual name. Of course, she said back. Rama then turned to the flame mage. Leopold, I was wondering, a little while after breakfast, would you like to spar with me? The young Vermilion raised a brow. Again, we had one just yesterday, and the day before that, we've spared almost every day since you joined the squash this year, he recalled. Oh, and you don't have to keep calling me Leopold man, we're friends, Leo is fine. The white-haired rookie shook his head. I'm sorry, but I can't do that, it's disrespectful to call your rival anything other than their proper name. Rival? The other three asked with confusion. Rama turned from them, briefly twiddling his fingers before he put them back on the table and turned to his squadmates. Yeah, when I first arrived here, I saw you training, you looked pretty powerful, I had already made a bit of a name for myself before joining the Magic Knights, so I wanted to see how well I could do against a royal. That's not a bad goal, you know what, this might be the first time I'm hearing about the whole rival thing, but I don't mind having you as a rival, the more the merrier, Leo replied, remembering how back at the capital before the attack, Asta was willing to accept him as his rival so quickly. Erica watched as the two boys shared a fist bump, she smiled. Rivals, I wonder if I should get myself one of those, but who would be my rival? Oksana perked up and eagerly raised her hand. Ooh, if you want, I'll be your rival, it'll be a lot of fun, we can grow even closer to each other, although, I don't know if it's possible to get any closer to your BFF. Erica politely waved her hands in a denying manner. No offense, Oksana, but I don't think it'll work, we might both be nobles, but you're older, and stronger, not to mention you're a Rossiu, I can't compete with that. No way, the Phantom Mage said with a slight tone of seriousness as she stood up and reached over the table to place her hands over Erica's. Those things might be true, but I think you can still do it, it'll just take time and practice. Thanks, Oksana, Erica said. Oksana nodded as she sat back down. You're welcome, so what'd you say, would you like it if I became your rival? The peach-haired girl held her chin. She began. Oksana had a big smile on her face as she unknowingly began moving her head closer, waiting for her best friend to accept her offer. Quote. No. Oksana's smile faded instantly as her head comically dropped on the table. What? Even after my words of encouragement, why not? I wasn't actually looking for a rival, I was just musing, Erica replied. But tell you what, if I'm ever actually looking for a rival, it can be you for sure. Okay, she said. Leo then started to laugh. You two are hilarious. I can tell why you're such good friends, and why we're such good friends. He then turned to his white-haired squadmate. All right, Rama, we're all done with breakfast, let's go have that spar, my rival. Nice, this is going to be awesome, Rama said as he then turned to Oksana and Erica. You two can come to watch if you want, we can even have a four-way battle afterward. Count us in, the two girls replied together as they all got up and exited the mess hall. So, who do you think is going to win during our spar? Leo asked openly. We can split our support, Oksana replied. I'll be rooting for Tiger Cub. Then I'll be rooting for Leo, Erica added. Great, let's pick up the pace so we can get there, Leo was saying before he was cut off by a voice in the distance. Hey there, the voice said. The four Crimson Lion Kings turned to see a man walking to them. He had short, messy brown hair, a stubble beard and goatee, a scar right on his forehead. He wore a black shirt with a dark pink vest over it. They were both under a dark green coat. He also had on bluish-gray pants and black shoes. The man was none other than Randall Luftair, the vice captain of the Crimson Lion Kings. Oh, hello there, vice captain, is something wrong? Erica asked. No, it's just that I was looking for the four of you, I have a mission for you, Randall replied. I hope I haven't come at a bad time. Rama and I were just about to have a spar outside, but it can wait, as Magic Knights, our duty comes first, Leo told him. I hope you don't mind if we duke it out later. Of course not, let's handle this mission, Rama said as the four followed Randall to his office. Upon arriving, Oksana spoke up. So, Vice Captain, how are you handling being the new leader? Pretty good, nothing I'm not used to, he replied. With Fugolian in a coma, Randall became temporarily in charge of the squad. But I hope that Captain Fugolian will wake up soon, no one can replace him. The others nodded. Randall then pulled a paper from his desk. Well, Here's the information on your mission. An important noble is to head to the outskirts of the Clover Kingdom to obtain a top secret letter from one of our spies in the Diamond Kingdom. Something regarding their king as have been told. The noble will then bring the letter to Wizard King Julius Novachrono. He and Julius will then do some discussing regarding it, but you aren't needed for that part. Then where do we come in? Leo asked. The four of you will act as bodyguards for this noble. You will be in charge of the noble's safety to and from the meeting point, Randall replied. Yes, sir. The four Clover saluted. The vice captain nodded. Good. The noble and his carriage are waiting right outside of the base. Oh, already? At least we won't have to wait. Let's go, Oksana said as they walked out of the office. Upon arriving outside, they already saw the noble under their care. It was a tall man. He had flowing black hair. He wore a fancy black and white suit. He was standing by an equally impressive-looking carriage, attached to two tall brown stallions that stood in the front, with the carriage driver sitting at the head. The noble walked over to them, respectfully bowing. Magic Knights of the Crimson Lion Kings, it is an honor. I am Magnus Yugdro. I thank you for agreeing to be my bodyguards for this important endeavor. The four nodded, Leo speaking up. There's no need to thank us, sir, we're merely fulfilling our duty to the kingdom. Magnus stood up straight. I have no offense to your squad escorting me, but I was initially hoping that it would be Magic Knights from the Golden Dawn. There's no doubt William knows about this. I'm surprised he didn't offer anything. After all, we are. Let's get into the carriage. Magnus, we don't want to waste any time, Rama cut him off. Oh yes, you're right, shall we? Magnus said to the others as they all boarded the carriage. It then started to move and left the base. The inside of the carriage was silent for about 20 minutes into the ride, but then Oksana spoke up. So Magnus, have you done this before? You know, getting really important letters regarding matters in other kingdoms. I have. My line of work falls within a diplomatic category, so I'm used to this, he replied. Are you a strong mage then? I bet dangerous affairs like this have sharpened your magical skills. Erica then asked. What kind of magic do you use anyways? Well, I use wood magic. As for my skill with it, it's not the greatest. That's the whole reason I have you as my bodyguards, he replied again. That's right. You don't have to worry. If any problems arise, we'll handle it, Rama told him. But I don't think they will. The ride's been pretty peaceful so far. The white-haired mage spoke too soon. Right outside, a few feet in front of the carriage, a ball rolled out from an alleyway. Following after it was a little boy dressed in ragged and dirty clothes. He didn't notice the carriage coming right at him, but the carriage driver did, abruptly stopping the horses, causing them to loudly neigh. Ah! The boy screamed, startled by the sudden sound of the horses. The abrupt stop caused the carriage to shake. What's going on? Magnus asked as they all got out to see what the problem was. What happened? He asked the driver. I just noticed this boy in front of the carriage. I was able to stop it in time, he answered. Is everyone else okay? Nobody got hurt. No, we're fine, thank you, Leo replied. Magnus angrily walked to the boy, his face matching the way he strode. Watch it, boy, don't you know not to stand here when a carriage is coming through? I'm really sorry, sir. Let me explain what happened. You see, the boy was starting to explain. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Magnus yelled, cutting him off as he scanned the boy, more notably, his clothes. Why am I even wasting my time here with some dirty peasant boy? Of course you wouldn't know not to stand here. You people aren't the brightest any. It was the noble's turn to be cut off as he suddenly felt that his feet weren't on the ground. Next thing he knew, his entire body was on the ground. He looked up to see who was the perpetrator, only to find Rama, his eyes deadly serious while his fists were tightly clenched. He said nothing as he walked in a different direction, towards a ball in front of the carriage. He picked it up and walked to the boy, kneeling down to his level. His serious look quickly changed into a light smile. Is this yours, little boy? He kindly asked. It is, it rolled over here, so I came to get it. That's how the carriage almost got me, the boy explained. I see, just be more careful next time, Rama said as he gently ruffled the boy's hair. The boy smiled. Okay, thank you very much, mister, he said as he ran back into the alleyway. Rama stood up, Magnus doing the same. What was that for? Rama turned to look at him, his eyes became serious again. You shouldn't talk to people like that, especially a little boy. What does it matter? He's a commoner. You should understand. You're a noble just like me, Magnus said. The white-haired boy started walking to him, stopping just about a foot away from him. I'm not a noble. Magnus raised a brow. You're not. Wait, what's your name? I am Rama. Rama Asterius, he replied. Magnus widened his eyes. Asterius. Erica leaned her head towards Oksana. I don't get it. What's so special about his name? Rama has a fairly common background, like most commoners, but his family, the Asterius family, have made quite a name for themselves regardless. They're well known among many noble families for their honorable nature, as well as their mastery of martial arts. Erica looked mildly surprised. Martial arts. I've heard of it, but I've never met a mage who's actually used it. That's what makes his family so well known. They've mastered a style of fighting that nearly every mage in this kingdom has either ignored or doesn't know. Not even Julius can do martial arts, the phantom mage continued. Your last name is Asterius, and then there's that hair of yours. Are you the one called the White Tiger? Magnus asked. I am, but that's irrelevant. Status shouldn't determine how we treat each other because status doesn't mean anything. Look at my family. We're technically commoners just like that boy, but look at what we've made of ourselves, Rama replied. Leo then walked in front of them, using his arms to space them away from each other. Okay, you two. The conflict is over. We have a mission. We can't get sidetracked. Let's head back into the carriage. The two nodded as they all went back into the carriage. It then started moving again, but Magnus and Rama were avoiding eye contact with each other. Oksana then turned to Rama. Hey, Tiger Cub, that was so cool how you told Magnus off like that. I believe the same thing as you when it comes to status. Thanks, he said back. Erica noticed Magnus flinch and spoke up. Oksana, are you sure you should be saying that, especially with Magnus right there? She asked. We may be BFFs, but we really need to work on that filter of yours. You never seem to hesitate to say what's on your mind. First you call a boy like Rama cute right to his face with so much confidence, then this. She does have a point, Leo added. I remember that Dante saying that you had a tendency to speak without thinking. Look, I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine the way I am, she said as her face took on a slightly somber look. To be honest, I'm like this because I want everything I say to be genuine and honest. I want to be that person people can feel won't lie to them or keep something from them. I don't believe nobles should talk with so much class. We're human, plus that's already how Dante's like, so I don't want to be like that, especially since there's a person I can't be myself around. Rama looked at her. I see. Oh, and by the way, can I ask you something? Sure. Well, since you call me Tiger Cub, would you mind if I thought of a nickname for you, or do you already have one? He asked. No, Erica and I don't give nicknames to each other, but you can give me one. What did you have in mind? Well, I was thinking, what about Violet? Rama suggested. Oksana raised a brow. Violet. Yeah, Rama said as he passed his hand through Oksana's hair. I noticed that there's a violet strip of the left side of your hair. It looks really cool. That's right. I guess I wouldn't mind Violet, she said. Cool, Rama said back as the carriage suddenly stopped again. We're here, the driver announced. That was quick. Let's get going, Magnus said, quickly exiting the carriage, the four magic knights behind him. They immediately noticed a large number of trees around them. So, where's the spy? Erica wondered aloud. Then suddenly, a figure jumped from the trees and landed right in front of them. The build of the figure looked like that of a female. She wore a black cloak, the hood covering her face, leaving only her mouth visible. Great, you're here. Sorry for startling you. I had to make sure I wasn't followed. She took something out of her pocket. It was the letter. Here. Magnus took it and opened it, quickly scanning through its contents. Interesting. This can change a lot, thank you. The spy nodded. No problem. I'd better head back. She then quickly ran away. Okay. Let's head back to the carriage and make our way to Magic Knight headquarters, Magnus said as they all started to head to the carriage. Yeah, that's not happening. The sudden sound of an unfamiliar voice caused them to turn around, seeing a lone mage, their face covered by a hood. Leo recognized the mage's attire. It's a Diamond Kingdom assassin. I wasn't aware we had a spy in our kingdom, but no matter, once I eliminate you, I'll take care of her, the assassin said. You can try, but you won't succeed, Oksana said. Take Magnus into the carriage and get out of here, I'll take care of this joker. Alright, be careful, Leo said as the others boarded the carriage and sped away. This won't take long, Oksana said as she took out her grimoire. It flipped through pages. Phantom magic. Ghoul chaser. She exclaimed as a bodiless phantom appeared and raced at the assassin. You'll need more than that. Earth magic. Defense of Terra. The assassin exclaimed as he punched the ground, summoning a wall of earth to protect him. Okay. It seems this will take some time, the phantom mage said. That's the least of your worries, girl, the assassin said as he snapped his fingers. Out of nowhere, 6 more assassins appeared. You're outnumbered now. You think that numbers will secure victory? Don't make me laugh. Phantom creation magic. Malevolent duppy. She exclaimed as a horrifying phantasmal figure appeared in front of her, its body greatly disfigured. It ran at 2 of the assassins. Flame magic. Raging fire. One exclaimed. Wind magic. Tornado blast. Another one joined in as the 2 attacks pushed her spell back, making it disappear. You're starting to get on my nerves, Oksana said. Attack her now. One assassin exclaimed as the 7 of them each used a spell at once. Nice try. Phantom creation magic. Supernatural protection of white. Oksana exclaimed as a ghost came from her grimoire, quickly spiraling around her, effectively protecting her from the simultaneous attack. I hope Oksana's doing fine, Erica said. Don't worry, she's tough, and there's only one assassin. I bet she already beat him and is catching up with us as we speak, Leo told her. True. Let's stop the carriage and wait for her. We're far enough from them, Rama said as they did so. He then got out of the carriage. It should maybe only take her around 5 to 10 minutes to catch, he started saying, but was interrupted as he saw fire and lightning in the sky. What the? Fire and lightning? Neither one of those are Violet's attributes, and they can't both belong to the assassin, Rama deduced. Guys, we have a problem. What is it? Erica asked. I think Violet is fighting more than one assassin, Rama replied. We need to get moving then, she could be in trouble, Leo said. No, I'll go, you two still need to stay here and protect Magnus, just in case there are any more assassins here that we don't know about, Rama told them as he started running back in the direction Oksana was in. Erica, use your magic to block this part of the road. I'm on it, she responded, getting out of the carriage, and she took out her grimoire. Lava magic. Lava wave. She exclaimed as she slammed the ground with both hands, sending a large tidal wave of lava forward. It stopped just around where Rama was. Nice work. With the road blocked off, we only have to worry about defending this side, Leo said as he turned to Rama. All right then. Get moving, my rival. Right, he said as he took out his grimoire. Lightning magic. Force of Ragin. Rama exclaimed as white lightning began to circulate both inside and outside of him, his body becoming covered in lightning-shaped tattoos. I'm on my way, Violet, he said before running with great speed. Earth magic. Falling boulder. An assassin declared as a huge rock appeared above Oksana. Her grimoire flipped to another page. Phantom creation magic. Eidolon paladin. She exclaimed as the ghostly knight appeared before her, clad in gray armor, a sword in its hand. It quickly slashed the boulder in half. None of our attacks are hitting her. We need a new, one of the assassins was saying, but was stopped as a boot rammed right into his face, sending him to the ground, the source of that attack landing right next to Oksana. Hey there, Violet, tiger cub. I noticed fire and lightning in the sky, so I came back, Rama explained. These guys are no real threat. The only annoying thing about them is their numbers. I was just planning to make them waste all their mana before using my wyvern spell to take them out, she said, but then realized something. She moved closer to him. Wait a minute, you came back. Does that mean you were worried about me? It's dishonorable to fight 7 against 1. I merely came to even the odds, Rama replied. What? Oksana said with a sigh. You really know just what to say to a girl, don't you? There's another one, but it won't matter. You're still outnumbered, the Earth Mage said. We're still not fighting evenly, but that won't change the outcome of this fight. Lightning creation magic. Voltage polearm. Rama exclaimed as white lightning flashed in front of him. It solidified into a polearm with a bladed spear on both sides. Let's begin, he muttered as he flashed forward, kicking an assassin dead in the face, knocking him out immediately. He then ran forward, striking 2 more with his polearm, creating a wound as well as electrocuting them, knocking them out too. Holy shit, Tiger Cub is really giving it to them. His force of Ragin is giving him enough speed so that they can't keep up with him, as well as increasing his kinetic energy to land more powerful hits which knocks them out in one go, Oksana noted. Soon, all the assassins but one were unconscious, the Earth Mage. Damn it, what the hell are you? He exclaimed. You took out the 6 of them in just a few seconds. It wasn't that hard, your assassins are just weak, that's why they went down so fast, Rama told him. And soon it will be your turn. No way, I'm not letting that information get away from the Diamond Kingdom, that diplomat has to die, Earth creation magic, rocksteady armor. He exclaimed as he became clad in the armor, he then charged forward. Die. Rama looked at Oksana. Would you like to do the honors? No, watching you kick ass is quite entertaining, she replied. All right then, enjoy the show, he replied as he ran and jumped into the air, his grimoire flipping to a page. 1-on-1, now it's a fair fight, but this fight is going to over real soon, and by real soon, I mean right now. You can't break my armor, the assassin proudly boasted. Oh really? Then why don't I give it a try, Rama said as he raised his polearm above his head. Lightning magic. Voltage polearm, slash of the white tiger. He exclaimed as the silhouette of a white tiger appeared behind him as he came down and struck the mage with tremendous force, instantly breaking his armor and knocking him unconscious. Rama landed, his polearm disappearing. So much for unbreakable, he said as Oksana walked up to him. They high-fived. Nice work, Tiger Cub. I got this part. We better take them with us, she said as her grimoire flipped to a page. Phantom binding magic. Apparitions clutches. At her call, 7 large 4-armed ghosts appeared, each with a human-like appearance. They walked to an assassin and picked them up, using their 4 arms to hold each of their limbs. We better head back and meet up with the others, she continued, but then realized something. Ah, damn it, I bet they're pretty far from here, and I'm not as fast as you. Maybe we should, she was going to say, but stopped once she felt herself being lifted up. She turned to see Rama carrying her princess style. I can speed us both to them, but what about your apparitions? Rama said before asking. Don't worry, it doesn't matter how far I am from them. When I snap, they'll appear right next to me, as well as whatever they're restraining, she replied. Perfect, so I think it's safe to say, mission accomplished, Rama said as he jumped into the air, heading towards the others so that they could all head to the capital. Chapter 45. Attack on Kaidan, Part 1. Hey there, readers, just want to remind you that I have a poll out asking about your favorite OCs in the story. I'll be taking it down next week, so please check it out if you haven't, and to those who have, thank you. With that out of the way, enjoy the new chapter. CYA. Back on the surface, Finral said as they all exited his portal. Finally returning our focus to the Black Bulls, just a few seconds ago, they had bid the underwater community and its residents farewell and entered Finral's portal. Coming out through the other side, they set foot on the sandy shore. Damn, that was quite the mission, Keno said gratefully as he then looked up at the sky, seeing that it was still fairly dark. It seems that it's still early in the morning, the sun hasn't come up yet. Yami blew smoke from his cigarette. He's right, our stuff is in the beach house, let's head there and get a little rest. Finral can teleport us back to the hideout once the sun comes up. Magna lightly yawned into his hand. We were able to rest for 5 hours after the fight, but I wouldn't mind some more. Same here, we were up all day and practically fought through the night, we deserve some extra Z's, Vanessa added. It's decided then, to the beach house we go. Asta exclaimed as the squad walked up, making it to the beach house. Upon entering, they saw the rest of their stuff, which only included their brooms and swimsuits. So, where are we going to sleep exactly? Ghosh asked. The others nodded. They all looked forward, staring at the singular bed in the entire building. What kind of idiot builds a beach house, but only builds one bed? Luck asked rhetorically. If I knew where they lived, I would have gone there and beaten the crap out of them. Okay, we wouldn't go that far, but it still wasn't smart. What if a large family rents this place, or a large group of friends, Noel added. Well, we can all agree whoever did this was stupid, but that doesn't matter right now, because the person who's sleeping on it has already been decided, Yami stated. Who? The dark mage pointed at himself. Who else? Me. What? No way in hell, Charmy screamed. I agree, no disrespect, Captain Yami, but you hardly did anything when we were down there. You already weren't going to participate in the temple battle royale, and then when the eye of the midnight sun came, you might have been trapped, but you were still relatively safe. Meanwhile the rest of us were fighting for our goddamn lives against Veto and his mages, so I'm sorry, but we can't let you do that. Kenos explained. It appears that you all disagree with my choice. Too bad I don't care. Wait, on second thought, I have a better idea, Yami said as he drew his katana, a dark smile present on his face. We can battle right now, no holding back, and the person that beats me can have the bed. At the sound of those words, the angry faces on his squad members contorted to looks of forced happiness. You know what, you should take the bed, after all, you are the captain of this squad, Keno spoke up, the others nodding. The dark mage was already scary enough when he wanted to be, but now he had an incredibly impressive, albeit equally dangerous spell in his repertoire. The other's sweat dropped. His dimension slash literally cut Veto in half. There's no way in hell I'm going to be on the receiving end of that nightmare, they thought together. Yami resheathed his katana, the dark smile disappearing. A sudden change of heart. Smart move, he said, about to sit down on the bed, but then he turned around, looking at his squad members, one in particular. You know what? Never mind, if anyone should sleep here, it should be Asta, he told them. Me, why? The swordsman plainly asked. It's simple, both of your arms are broken, they probably won't heal in some time, and sleeping on the floor is a hassle without the use of your hands, Yami replied. Besides, taking into account what Keno said, you fought the most down there in the underwater temple, you deserve it. I have no arguments there, Keno stated, his eyes closed and his arms crossed as he nodded. Asta looked around to see the others nodding too, he grinned. Thanks a bunch, everyone, he said as he ran and jumped onto the bed, positioning himself as he laid down on his back. All right, as for the rest of us, let's find somewhere comfortable and get some rest, the captain instructed as they all did so, resting on different parts of the floor, before closing their eyes. Kenos tiredly yawned as his eyes slowly opened, he stretched his arm out, being careful not to hit either Noel or Finral as they weren't too far from him. How long have we been asleep? He muttered. The solar mage tiredly got up and walked over to a window and peered outside, his eyes widening as he did so. Holy crap, wake up everyone. His exclamation caused them all to quickly open their eyes in an abrupt manner. They immediately went into a simultaneous stretching motion. Asta got off of the bed. What's the big idea, Kenos? He asked tiredly. Take a look outside, he replied. The others raised a brow. They walked over to the window and looked out of it, causing their eyes to widen too. Outside the building was a huge amount of people, all playing around the beach and doing their own thing. How long have we been out for? Magna asked with surprise. Taking into account the number of people here as well as how bright the sun is, I think it's safe to say that we slept into the afternoon, Kenos responded. Well, if that's the case, then let's not stay here any longer. Finral, you know what to do, Yami said, turning in his direction. Finral nodded as he took out his grimoire and placed his hand forward, making a portal right in front of the entrance to the beach house. All right. Then let's get moving. Raki has been fun. Well, sort of, but I can't wait to get to the hideout, Noel said. Same here, Kenos agreed. I can't wait to get tea there and go tea to my room, tea then I'll never see come back out, Gray nervously stuttered. Vanessa gently slung her arm around the transformation mage's shoulder. No way I'm letting that happen. Alright, enough chatter, let's get going, Yami told them as they all walked into the portal, appearing on the other side, smiling as the base was in view. Ah, it's good to be back, and it's just how we left it. That reminds me, Finral said, realizing something. Didn't we leave Gordon and Nero here? I wonder how they're doing. I say we just go inside and find out, Kenos replied as they walked forward to the entrance, opening the door and entering. The first thing they noticed upon entering was Gordon, sitting on the couch, with Nero perched on his head. The poison mage immediately turned around once he heard footsteps, his face contorting into a creepy smile as he got up and ran to them, his notebook and pencil in hand. Hey there, Gordon, Nero, Asta greeted. How have you been? Good. Gordon nodded while Nero merely raised one of his wings, signifying a yes too. Gordon then began writing something on his notebook. Once he finished, he showed it to the others. They brought their heads down to read it. Yay, my good friends have returned. Please tell me how was the day at the beach. I might not like the open sea, but I want to know you enjoyed it, and tell me how the mission went too. The beach trip was incredible. It also turns out that Kenos is some kind of beach enthusiast. He was really excited when we first got there, Asta replied. The mission part was a different story. However, while we were down in the underwater temple, we had a run-in with the Eye of the Midnight Sun, but we managed to beat all of them, even their big boss, Veto, Vanessa added. Awesome. I'm glad to know they had fun, and that they completed the mission safely, Gordon thought to himself before noticing someone hiding behind Ghosh. It was a girl with blue hair, and she was wearing their squad robe. The silent mage quickly wrote something down on another page of his notebook, but this time, only Luck bent down to read it. Who is that girl behind Ghosh, and why is she hiding? I've never seen her before. The lightning mage quickly zoomed over to Ghosh and pulled the target of Gordon's gaze out from behind him. This is Gray. It turns out she's been a girl this whole time, and for some reason, she's super shy, that's why she's hiding behind Ghosh. Hey, Captain Yami, how did you let Gray into the squad, but you weren't aware of her actual gender, didn't you see it during the exam? Kenos asked curiously. Oh, I didn't recruit Gray in the exam, I was just walking around and I noticed her in that disguise she's usually in, the big bulky dude that doesn't say anything. I just thought how it was hilarious how she was just standing there doing nothing, so I gave her a robe and welcomed her into the squad, the dark mage plainly replied. The solar mage looked dumbfounded. What? That's it. Don't you think that was sort of irresponsible of you to do? You didn't even know her type of magic. True, but I don't think it was irresponsible, Yami said, sounding just a bit more serious. It doesn't matter who you are, or where you came from, I don't let anyone into my squad if I don't think they have what it takes. When I came across Gray, I felt her mana, and read her ki, and I knew she had the potential for greatness. He's right, when we needed to help Fanzel that one time, your plan to get him out of here was incredible. I was totally stunned at first, you never came off to me as the strategic type, Magna added. Despite her shy nature, Gray was in total awe of the praise she was getting from her squadmate and captain. She removed her hands from her face and looked at the others adamantly. Thank you. They all looked at her with surprise. Ghosh was the first to speak up. You didn't stutter. The transformation mage was silent, but that only lasted for a few seconds before her face turned beet red and she ran towards a corner and crouched down, holding her knees. What was it thinking D doing something like T that? I'm never D doing it A again. Ah damn it, and just when I thought she was making progress, Vanessa said jokingly with a slight facepalm. The Black Bulls once more saw Gordon writing something in his notebook. They all looked over to see what it said. If Gray has been a part of this squad from the beginning, that means she's one of my good friends too. I should get to work on her doll right away so it can join the group of dolls I made after my other friends. No one said anything as they finished reading what was on the notebook, but their minds came to one unified thought. He made dolls of us. I don't know whether that's nice or creepy. Yami awkwardly coughed, trying to remove the thought from his mind. So Gordon, did anything happen while we were gone? The poison mage perked up as he began writing again. This one took a bit longer, but he eventually finished and let the others see what he wrote. As a matter of fact, something did happen while you were gone. Yesterday, I was looking for something for Nero when I wandered into the beast room, and the beasts managed to break out of their cages and wander into the forest, but Nero and I were able to find them and bring them back. Oh yeah, I almost forgot we have a beast room, Noel spoke up. Nice work, Gordon, you too, Nero, it's a good thing you two were here or they'd probably be long gone by now, Yami said. I'm going to need someone to feed them, Asta. He turned to the swordsman by habit as he's the one who feeds the beasts, but stopped midway as his gaze fell on his two broken arms. Quote. Magna, I'm leaving it to you, he quickly turned to the flame mage. You can count on me. Magna exclaimed, doing a normal salute before running towards the beast room. Yami quickly sighed. As for me, I need to head over to Magic Knight's HQ to deliver the magic stone to Julius. He then realized something. Hey, wait a minute, I know Veto's dead, but what about the mages who came with him, are they still down there? Charmy raised her hand. Nope, they're right here, she pointed to a small cotton cloud on her shoulder. I used my shrinking cloud containment spell to trap them right in here. I wasn't sure when they might regain consciousness, so I bound them as well to be safe. Nice work, Finral, form a portal to the capital, Yami ordered. On it, the spatial mage responded as he was about to form a portal, but then a voice spoke up. Wait up, I want to come too. Asta exclaimed. No way you're going with them, Dirksta. Do I need to remind you that both of your arms are broke? Noel scolded him. Ah, but I wanted to see the Wizard King again, the magicless mage pouted. Kenos walked up to him. Don't worry, Noel, I'll come too, and keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't worsen his condition. The water mage crossed her arms. All right then, I trust you, if you'll keep him out of danger, he can go. It would be good for the kid to come anyway, we need those broken arms of his looked at, and Magic Knight's HQ has a ton of high-ranking recovery mages, Yami added. Okay Finral, the portal. Finral nodded and formed the portal. Yami turned to the ones accompanying him before looking at the others. We shouldn't be gone for too long, he said as the five of them walked into it, quickly arriving on the other side. Hey, Captain Yami, you won't need me to come with you to HQ, will you? Finral asked. No, if I need you, I'll just call you on my communication device, he replied. Great, because if you need me, he began before running away from them, a cloud of dust in his wake. I'll be picking up some girls. You sure you should be letting him off like that? Charmy asked. The dark mage blew smoke from his cigarette, a small smile on his face. Yeah, I saw how much he did during the fight in the underwater temple, he's earned it. I'll say, I can't believe how fast we were going, who knows, we could even beat you, Captain, Asta stated. Don't push it, kid, now let's go, Yami plainly responded as they walked through the streets of the capital. Within a few minutes, Magic Knight headquarters was in view. They entered the building and started walking down the hall where Julius's office was located, but on their way there, they were noticed by a familiar mage. Oh, the Black Bulls, are you here to see Julius? The mage asked. Kenos looked at him. It was none other than Marx. The solar mage nodded. That's right, we're here to deliver a magic stone. Oh, that's great, Marx said. Yami turned to Charmy. You can give Marx our prisoners. Prisoners? The memory mage asked with a brow raised in confusion. On it, Charmy replied as she and Marx stopped walking. She carefully took the puff of cotton on her shoulder and tiptoed. Marx bent down as the cotton mage placed the cloud in his hands. Marx looked at it strangely. We ran into some mages from the Eye of the Midnight Sun during our mission. I used a spell to trap them in this. All you have to do to release it is to let it hit the ground. But be careful, they might be conscious by now, she explained. All right, thank you, I'll gather some mages before releasing them, he said, quickly making his way to the dungeon. Charmy quickened her pace to catch up with the others and soon, they were standing at Julius's door. Yami gave 2 quick knocks. Come in, they heard Julius's voice say from the other side. They wasted no time opening the door and walking inside, being immediately welcomed by the Wizard King's smiling face. Ah, Yami, I wasn't expecting you today, and you brought Kenos and Asta with you, he said before quickly noting the condition of the latter. Oh, Asta, are you okay? Did something happen to your arms? It's nothing to worry about, I'll be fine, the swordsman replied. We came here to deliver this, Yami said, taking out the magic stone. From our mission to the underwater temple. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to come from that until tomorrow, the time mage stated as Yami gave him the stone. Tell me, how did it go? I haven't seen your report of it yet. It was pretty tough for these guys, the Eye of the Midnight Sun was down there as well, but we managed to win, not to mention we've all gotten stronger, Yami replied. I'll fill out my report for it later today. Great, and how are you doing? I hope you've been eating and getting enough sleep, Julius then said. The dark mage took his cigarette out of his mouth and looked at the Wizard King. Geez, where did that come from? I'm 28, you don't need to talk to me like I'm a kid. Julius chuckled. Yes, I suppose you're right, I just started thinking about when you were younger, he said before looking down. Seeing Charmy, the cotton mage looked at him with some awe. So this is the Wizard King. He's a lot taller up close, she said. Julius picked her up. And speaking of kids, is she yours? He asked. What's your name? I'm Charmy. What a nice name, he said, turning to Yami. I wasn't aware you and Charlotte tied the knot. The dark mage looked at him with comedic indifference. What are you talking about? Charmy's not my kid, she on my squad. Despite her height, she's 19, and why mention the prickly queen? The two of us don't need to tie the knot. I'm perfectly capable of tying a knot by myself. I do wear boots. Julius's eyes were closed and a smile was on his face, but his throat immediately dried. Oh yes, I know, just a joke to lighten the mood, he croaked. Nice save, Julius. If Charlotte ever found out I spilled her not-so-secret crush on Yami, not even my powers as the Wizard King could save me from her wrath. It's just that's Charmy's name is quite a coincidence. It has the Char from Charlotte's name, and the My from Yami's name. I was almost certain they named her after parts of their name, but it seems I was wrong. He then put the girl down. Although Yami, Asta, and Charmy were oblivious to Julius's statement, the same wasn't true for Kenos, who began to think. Tie the knot. Doesn't that mean marriage? Why would Julius think Charlotte and Yami are married? But then again, he did say it was a joke. There are only two female captains, Charlotte and Dorothy, and the latter is always asleep, so it would make sense. Man, I'm smart, the solar mage thought. Well, good job on the mission. I was originally going to award you 5 stars for it, but since the eye of the midnight sun got in the way and you managed to still complete the mission, I'll award your squad 15 stars instead, Julius told them. 15 stars. They exclaimed. Now that makes me wonder, Kenos spoke up. When was the last time we took a look at our squad star count? Not too sure. I guess it was during the early days of our time with the squad, Asta replied with some uncertainty. We can check once we get back to base, Yami told them as Julius handed him a bag of stars. He then looked the time mage in the eyes, a soft expression on both their faces. Is there anything else you need? Julius shook his head. No, that will be all. Thanks for dropping by. I'll see you, he began saying, but was interrupted as Marx barged in. What's the matter? Julius asked with concern. Master Julius, it's the Diamond Kingdom, Marx began, but stopped to quickly catch his breath before he continued. They're attacking Kaiden. Julius and Yami's faces grew tense. The same look was present on Kenos' face, but Asta and Charmy looked confused, the former speaking up. What's Kaiden? It's a town along the border of the Clover and Diamond Kingdoms, similar to that dungeon we went to a while back. Kaiden usually serves as the first line of defense against Diamond Kingdom invasions, Kenos replied. And not just that, the town is loaded with natural resources, something the Diamond is seriously lacking in. If they manage to capture, their kingdom will become stronger, not to mention they could attack Clover whenever they wish, seeing how close the town is. Thanks for the explanation, Kenos. That just means we can't let them succeed, Marx said as he took out a magic item and pushed a button on it, projecting a large screen. They were all able to see Kaiden. They noted the wall and towers surrounding it. These walls protect the town, but for extra defense, we have a barrier powered by 50 mages, but something tells me it won't be enough, he continued before he swiped the screen, letting them see a different image. It was the Diamond forces, all moving by air. At the front of it were 3 mages. One looked very old and wore all black. The other 2 wore more traditional Diamond soldier attire. The first one had a brown afro and beard with 3 jewels fashioned on his forehead. The other had neat blue hair that was held up by a black headband embroidered with jewels. Julius's eyes tensed even more than before. Brox, Lagus, and Yagos, 3 of Diamond's 8 shining generals. Asta was confused once more. 8 shining generals. It was Yami who answered this time. The 8 strongest mages in the Diamond Kingdom, they're each roughly around the power of one of our Magic Knight captains, sometimes, even more powerful. A voice was then heard. They all looked up at the screen to see the blue-haired general, Lagus, take out his grimoire. Once the barrier has been destroyed, this town is ours for the taking, for the glory of the Diamond Kingdom, lightning creation magic, Thunderbird cavalry, sky-splitting magic bow armament. He exclaimed as he formed a large bow of blue electricity. Lagus pulled his right arm back as 6 arrows appeared. He released them all, sending them crashing into the barrier. He grinned as his spell succeeded in destroying the barrier. Damn it, this is bad, Yami muttered. I know, if we don't move quickly, Kaiden will, Julius was saying, but was cut off by a beep. He took out the source of the sound, his communication device. He activated and saw someone on the other side. William. Yami's eyes tensed at the sound of his fellow captain's name, his mind going back to his earlier suspicion back at the underwater temple. Don't worry about Kaiden, Julius, the Golden Dawn have arrived, William said. That's a relief, thank you, William, and be careful, Julius replied as the transmission ended. If the Golden Dawn is there, that means Yuno is too, Asta stated, causing Charmy to perk up. Julius, I'm heading to Kaiden too, they might need some help, Yami said. That, and I want to have a talk with Goldie. I'll come too. Asta exclaimed. No, you're not. You can't do anything at the moment with your arms like that. I can't have you getting killed, Yami told him. Please, Captain. Yuno is going to be there. And I bet he's gotten stronger too. I can't let this injury stop me, the swordsman said with an adamant look. Keno stepped up. Allow him to go. I already said I'd watch over him. I promise I won't let him get into danger. Charmy did the same. I'll keep him safe too. Julius smiled. He was glad to see squadmates sticking up for each other. Yami sighed. Fine. I guess you three can come. But before we do anything, we need to find Finral. Let's go, he said as the 4 black bulls ran out. Good luck, Julius and Marx said. Meanwhile, in Kaidan, the members of the Golden Dawn were all standing on the large roof of a tall building, letting them see the diamond forces flooding into the town. William stood at the front of the squad, a look of slight seriousness on his face. All right, Golden Dawn, let's show the Diamond Kingdom what we're made of, make them regret stepping on Clover Kingdom soil. Yes, sir. They all Clover saluted before jumping down and scattering around, ready to combat the foreign invaders.